Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Astronomer, a quiet place where science drifts into poetry, and the end of everything becomes a lullaby of understanding. Tonight, we wander to the farthest edge of time, to ask a question older than stars, and deeper than silence itself. What will happen when the universe dies? Imagine a cosmos long after the last sunrise, after the final star has burned its last breath of light. Galaxies fade into ghosts, black holes slowly evaporate, and even the background glow of creation cools to darkness. The great cosmic symphony quiets, until only faint vibrations remain, echoes of what once was. But this ending is not tragedy. It is stillness. A rest note in the song of existence, a return to simplicity after endless creation. The same forces that built the stars, that shaped you, that carried your thoughts across the night, will one day settle into silence. Breathe deeply now. You are part of that story, woven from its beginning, destined to rest with its ending. Nothing truly disappears, it only changes form, waiting for the next rhythm to begin again. So tonight, as we drift through the final chapters of time, we'll listen to the quiet future of everything. The gentle cooling of galaxies, the last whispers of energy, and the universe's slow return to peace. This is the Sleepy Astronomer. And together, we'll close our eyes and imagine how the cosmos says goodbye. You begin in silence, not the silence of absence, but the deep quiet that holds everything. It is the kind of silence that feels alive, like the pause between heartbeats. In this vast stillness, the universe itself seems to breathe. You do not yet see stars, or galaxies, or light, only a warmth that fills all directions at once, as if existence itself is gently remembering how to begin. You drift through that first breath of creation, back to a time before time. The universe, only a fraction of a second old, is smaller than an atom, yet it contains everything that will ever exist. Matter, energy, space, and even the laws that will guide them, all sleeping inside a single shimmering seed. And then, in one great exhale, it expands. This is the Big Bang, not an explosion in space, but the creation of space itself. Every direction stretches, carrying energy outward. You feel it, not as violence, but as growth, the way a flower opens in slow motion, petals unfolding from pressure into beauty. The temperature is beyond comprehension, trillions of degrees, yet there is an order hidden inside that heat. The young cosmos swells, filling itself with possibility. For a while, everything is just light, pure radiation flowing endlessly, photons bouncing and colliding, unable to travel freely. You float among them, feeling the brightness as a hum against your skin, though there is no sound, only motion. The universe glows not like a lamp, but like a thought becoming real. Gradually, it cools. The chaos softens. Energy turns into matter. Protons, neutrons, and electrons begin to appear, dancing in the newborn fabric of space. They are tiny, invisible, but they carry the potential for everything. For stars, for worlds, for you. The balance between energy and matter becomes a slow heartbeat, steady and calm. The young universe expands like breath after breath. As it grows, it cools enough for the first atoms to form, hydrogen, mostly, and a touch of helium. They drift together in the darkness, whispering to one another through gravity. Space itself stretches wider, its fabric thinning like mist over an endless ocean. You realize that even now, billions of years later, that expansion continues. Every galaxy, every star, every grain of dust in your body still carries that original motion, the momentum of that first great breath. When you inhale, somewhere deep within you, that same expansion echoes. You are, in a very real way, made from the universe's first exhalation. The silence you feel now is the same silence that followed the Big Bang, not emptiness, but potential. It is the sound of things beginning to settle, to take shape. The light that once filled everything begins to calm, no longer trapped by particles. For the first time, photons travel freely. If you could see it, you'd witness the moment the cosmos became transparent, when light was finally allowed to move through space without resistance. That ancient light is still here. It hasn't vanished, it has simply cooled, stretched by time. It fills the universe even now, invisible to your eyes but not gone. Scientists call it the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of creation. You can imagine it as a soft, dim warmth that wraps around everything, the final whisper of the universe's birth. You close your eyes and imagine drifting through that glow. It hums gently, a quiet reminder that the past is not gone, it only changes form. Every photon that escaped that first fog still travels today, carrying with it the memory of beginnings. The universe, it seems, does not forget. As time moves forward, though time itself is still a newborn idea, the universe keeps expanding. It grows cooler, calmer, wider. Gravity begins to weave its patterns, pulling matter together. Tiny irregularities in density, no larger than a grain of dust compared to the whole, begin to shape the structure of everything. Those slight ripples become seeds of galaxies, of stars, of planets. You can feel them forming, slowly, invisibly, guided by patience, rather than urgency. It is strange to think that the grandest patterns, spirals of galaxies, rivers of stars, were born from minute fluctuations in that early fog. But that is the nature of creation. From small differences, infinite variety grows. The universe's perfection lies not in symmetry, but in its quiet imperfections. You drift farther, deeper into that forming structure. You see the first stars beginning to glow, though they are still far off in the future of this story. For now, the universe continues its gentle exhalation, a steady rhythm that feels both eternal and intimate. You begin to understand that expansion is not escape, it is balance. The cosmos is not rushing away from itself, it is finding the space to exist. There is comfort in this realization. Every breath you take mirrors that same cosmic pattern. When you inhale, you gather the universe into yourself. When you exhale, you release it again. In this way, you and the universe breathe together, part of the same endless cycle of motion and rest. The silence around you deepens. You sense not loneliness, but belonging, as if this vast stillness recognizes you. It knows your atoms, because they were once the universe's atoms. You are not outside looking in, you are inside looking deeper. Somewhere, beyond imagination, the temperature drops further. The light continues to stretch, wavelengths lengthening, fading into cooler tones. The expansion will never stop, it only slows, like a sigh softening into memory. You can almost hear it, the universe, breathing in silence, waiting for what comes next. You realize, too, that silence is never truly empty. It is full of potential, the quiet hum of everything that might become. Within it are the seeds of stars, the architecture of galaxies, the pattern of life itself. The silence before the first light is not an ending. It is the pause before creation begins its song. And you, floating in that breathless expanse, are part of that song, a listener and a note at once. As the faint warmth of the first light continues to fade, you can feel it calling you forward. Beyond this silence lies illumination. Somewhere, the light begins to find its path, stretching across the widening fabric of space, carrying stories that will last forever. The universe has taken its first breath. The silence that follows is not stillness, but peace. You drift through it, feeling the rhythm of beginnings echo in your chest. Soon, light will learn to travel freely. Soon, you will follow it, to watch how it fills the darkness, how it tells the universe's first story. And so you wait, in the calm between breaths, listening for the next sound, the faint, eternal whisper of the light that never fades. You drift now into brightness, a universe no longer shrouded in silence, but softly glowing. The darkness of before begins to part, and through it, light streams freely for the first time. It spreads in every direction, gentle and endless, like ripples on a still pond. You are surrounded by its quiet grace, photons, the messengers of the cosmos, carrying memory from one corner of existence to another. Each photon has no weight, yet it travels forever. It is the most patient traveler you could ever imagine, moving at the speed of light, never tiring, never slowing, never resting. You follow one as it glides through the vast openness of space. It was born nearly 14 billion years ago, when the first atoms released their glow. It has seen galaxies form, stars ignite, and planets awaken. And even now, it continues, a survivor from the universe's dawn. Light, you realize, is not only what allows you to see, it is how the universe remembers itself. Every ray carries the signature of its origin. Some come from stars, burning millions of light-years away. Others, older and fainter, come from the very moment the universe became transparent. If you could listen to them, you would hear the soft hum of creation itself. The universe, once dense and blinding, has now expanded enough for photons to move freely, no longer trapped by matter. This is the era of illumination, when light becomes the storyteller of everything that will ever be. It travels through time and distance, painting the universe in waves and color. You notice how light bends and stretches as space expands. Its once blazing energy cools, its color shifting from white to red to faint whispering microwaves. Yet even when it fades beyond sight, it still exists, a silent pulse moving endlessly through time. Light never dies, it only changes form. It is the universe's promise to never forget. You drift closer to a newborn star, a furnace of fusion, roaring quietly in the void. Inside its heart, hydrogen atoms merge into helium, releasing more photons, billions of them every second. They begin deep within the star's core, trapped for thousands of years, bouncing from one particle to another until they finally break free. When they do, they burst outward, flooding the cosmos with brilliance. You imagine one of those photons landing gently on your skin, billions of years later. That warmth you feel on your face from the sun, that is a story written inside light, a direct line from a star's heart to your own. You are always in conversation with the universe, through light. And yet, light is delicate. It can be stretched by distance, absorbed by dust, bent by gravity. When it passes near a massive object, a planet, a star, even a black hole, it curves, following the shape of space itself. The universe, you see, is not flat. It bends, and light follows those curves like a river tracing valleys carved in time. You drift farther into the cosmic ocean, and you begin to notice the way light weaves everything together. It connects galaxies like threads of gold, each beam a bridge between past and present. When you look up at the night sky, if you could still see with human eyes here, every star would be a message sent long ago. You never see a star as it is. You see it as it was. You live always in the light of memory. Some of those photons you might see tonight have traveled for millions, even billions, of years before reaching you. They left their homes before Earth existed, before the sun was born, before the Milky Way had fully taken shape. And yet they arrive, perfectly, finding you through chance and gravity and time. The universe does not rush their journey. It allows them to move at their pace, constant, infinite, serene. There is comfort in that. The speed of light is not merely a number. It is the universe's own heartbeat. It sets the rhythm of time itself. You begin to sense the vastness in a new way now. The spaces between galaxies grow wider as the universe continues to expand. Every beam of light must travel farther and farther to reach anything at all. As it does, its wavelength stretches, growing longer, weaker, cooler. The light that once filled the sky begins to dim. This is how the story of brightness begins to change, not ending, but slowing. The universe's early glow turns red, then infrared, then radio. Energy thins, but it never vanishes completely. Light, even as it fades, continues to tell its tale. You close your eyes and feel that fading, not as loss, but as grace. Light has done its work. It has illuminated the path for creation. It has birthed stars and warmed planets and carried life into being. And now, as it stretches toward infinity, it gives its energy back to the dark, allowing the next act of the cosmic story to unfold. You sense a lesson in this, that even what fades still matters. Light that no longer shines to the eye still hums in the background, filling all of space with a soft residual warmth. This glow, known as the cosmic background radiation, is the oldest light you can still detect. It is faint now, cooled to just a few degrees above absolute zero, but it never stopped existing. You realize something profound. Everything you see, everything you know, has been touched by this light. It connects galaxies, lives, and moments that will never meet. It is the memory of the beginning written across the skin of time. As you drift further into the cooling dark, the stars around you flicker, not because they vanish, but because distance steals their brightness. Space itself expands, stretching the pathways light must travel. You watch as entire galaxies slowly fade into invisibility, carried away by the accelerating growth of the cosmos. And yet, even now, photons continue their endless migration. Some will travel until the very end of time, carrying their stories into the quiet that follows. Light, you realize, is the most faithful witness. It stays until everything else is gone. You breathe, softly, letting that thought settle. The light that once guided the universe will, in time, grow dim. But in that fading, it will give way to something new, a gentler, older kind of illumination. Because where light dims, stars begin to age. Their fire softens, their fuel wanes, and the cosmos begins to glow in deeper, cooler tones. You turn toward that slow transformation now, ready to follow it, to watch how brightness becomes wisdom, and how youth becomes grace. The stars are waiting for you, quietly growing old. You float among the stars now, not as points of distant light, but as living beings, each one breathing, burning, aging. The universe has grown vast and mature since its first brilliant dawn. The galaxies are settled, swirling with grace, their shapes familiar, their centers calm. And scattered through this cosmic sea, the stars live out their luminous lives. Each one was born from darkness, from clouds of gas and dust collapsing under gravity's steady hand. When enough pressure gathered in their hearts, they ignited. For billions of years, they burned, transforming simple hydrogen into light. It was this gentle alchemy that filled the sky with brilliance. Every warmth you've ever known, the glow of the sun on your skin, the shimmer of night, was born from the quiet determination of a star turning itself into light. But now, you begin to sense time's passage on a cosmic scale. The first stars that once roared with energy have already gone silent. The great blue giants, so radiant and brief, have ended their lives in spectacular bursts, supernovae that scattered their ashes across galaxies. From those ashes came everything solid and beautiful: carbon, oxygen, iron, the ingredients of worlds and life. The younger stars that remain burn slower, more patient. They live for billions of years, quietly sustaining their fires. You drift near one such star, a yellow sphere like your sun, still warm and steady. Deep in its heart, hydrogen fuses into helium, the simplest reaction in the universe, and yet the most essential. Each second, countless atoms merge, releasing energy that rises outward, layer by layer, until it spills into space as light. You listen to the rhythm of that process, the slow beat of nuclear fusion. It is steady, like a heartbeat. It reminds you that the universe, though immense, lives through balance. Every flame is measured, every transformation, precise. But even the most balanced fire must one day wane. Eventually, hydrogen, the star's first and simplest fuel, runs low. When that happens, the core begins to shrink under its own gravity, heating fiercely. The outer layers, responding to that pressure, swell outward. The star grows larger, redder, softer. You watch it expand into a red giant, vast enough to swallow entire worlds that once orbited peacefully nearby. The beauty of it takes your breath away. It glows like a dying ember, vast and gentle, filling the sky with color. The surface cools, yet the core blazes hotter than ever, fusing new elements, helium into carbon, carbon into oxygen. Each reaction is shorter-lived than the last, each a desperate, luminous whisper. This is how stars grow old, not suddenly, but gracefully, layer by layer, transformation by transformation. You feel no sorrow for them, only awe. They are not dying in despair, but completing their purpose. They have given light, created matter, and now return what remains to the cosmos. Their death is not an ending, but a contribution. You float near the outer edge of a red giant's atmosphere. The gas is thin and warm, glowing like mist around a lantern. Every atom here will someday drift away, carried into space by gentle solar winds. The star is shedding itself, its skin dissolving into the dark. Eventually, the glowing core will be revealed, a white dwarf, dense and small, no larger than Earth but heavier than a sun. You gaze upon that remnant, dazzling at first, then slowly cooling. It no longer burns with fusion. Its light is not from fire, but from memory, the stored heat of all it once was. Over billions of years, it will fade, turning from white to blue to red, and finally into darkness. Yet in its quiet end, there is still meaning. For all the elements it once forged will live on in dust and stone and breath. You realize that every atom in your body, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen you inhale, the iron that carries your blood, was made in a star like this. You are, quite literally, stardust given form, thought, and voice. When stars grow old, they are not lost. They continue in everything that follows. You are their continuation. As you drift through the galaxy, you witness countless stages of this cosmic aging. Young stars flicker blue and fierce, middle-aged ones like your sun glow golden and calm, elders swell and fade. The galaxy itself seems alive, its arms shimmering with birth, its heart pulsing with ancient light. The cycle never truly stops. Clouds of gas born from dead stars will gather again, collapsing to ignite new ones. You feel the rhythm of it, birth, burn, fade, renew, repeating endlessly, like a cosmic breath. The universe is teaching you patience. Even as stars die, new light is always waiting to rise. You pass through regions where only the faintest stars remain, red dwarfs, small and dim. They burn so slowly that they may outlast everything else, shining gently for trillions of years. They are the caretakers of the universe's twilight, quiet and enduring. When all other stars have faded, these tiny embers will still glow, keeping the darkness at bay. It comforts you to know that the universe will never truly be dark all at once. Its aging is gradual, graceful, and full of purpose. Each stage prepares the way for the next. You linger near one old star, its surface trembling as it prepares to cast off its final shell. The gas floats outward, forming delicate rings of color, red, blue, green, shimmering like soap bubbles in space. This is a planetary nebula, though it holds no planet. It is the star's final breath, a gift to the cosmos. You move through it slowly. The light filters through the mist, soft and iridescent, painting you in fading color. You can almost hear the quiet farewell of atoms dispersing, hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, drifting outward to find new homes. Some will join with dust to form planets. Some will rest in the emptiness between stars. Some, perhaps, will one day become part of another living being's body. You realize now that the universe doesn't waste anything. It only transforms. The nebula fades behind you. Ahead, the space grows deeper, darker. You sense the gradual cooling of everything, the quiet turning of the cosmic page. Stars continue to live and die, but the rate slows. There will come a time, long after the present, when even the faint red dwarfs will dim. The stars, like all living things, must someday grow old. Yet in their aging, they give life to everything else. Their light writes history into the void. Their ashes become the seeds of new creation. And as you drift further into this gentle, cosmic twilight, you feel a deep peace. You understand that even in fading, there is grace. The universe does not mourn its light, it lets it go, trusting in renewal. The stars are beginning to rest now. Their fire softens, their hearts grow still. Around you, the great galaxies continue to turn, glowing faintly in the dark. You breathe with them, slow, endless, serene, and feel the weight of ages passing through you. Somewhere ahead, beyond the stars' last glow, lies a new chapter, when their fires go out entirely, and darkness begins to take its turn. You drift toward that horizon, quiet and ready to witness it. The light is thinning now. You can feel it, not as loss, but as distance. The universe has grown vast and weary. The bright white and blue stars that once glittered across galaxies are gone, leaving only the smallest, faintest lights behind. Red dwarfs, those humble, patient stars, still glow in the darkness, but even they are fading, their warmth spent after trillions of years. You move among them, these final torches of creation. They burn dimly, their light no stronger than a candle seen through fog. Each one holds the memory of a time when the cosmos was young and restless, when galaxies sang with radiance. Now, that song has softened to a whisper. Around you, the galaxies themselves have grown pale. The spirals that once shimmered with color now gleam in shades of gray. Dust drifts slowly through the cold, illuminated only by the faintest red glows. Space feels heavier somehow, not because it is filled, but because it remembers what has gone. You drift toward one of the last living stars. It is old, impossibly old. Its hydrogen is nearly gone, its fusion slow and tired. It has burned with quiet patience since long before your sun was born, and it will outlive almost everything, but not forever. Nothing, not even starlight, can last without end. You hover near its surface, watching as its faint light trembles against the surrounding dark. The star breathes slowly, its energy nearly spent. Its radiance, once steady, now flickers like the last ember of a dying fire. And yet, there is still beauty here, quiet, enduring beauty. It is the beauty of surrender, of letting go without regret. When its last reserves of fuel vanish, fusion ceases. The light falters, dims, and finally fades. The star cools and contracts, its glow fading to black. You witness its final breath, a pulse of energy that ripples gently through space, not violent, not mournful, simply final. What remains is a dark, heavy remnant, a black dwarf, invisible to all but memory. You stay for a long moment, listening to what feels like silence. But it is not empty silence. It hums faintly with the residue of light that once was. Every photon that star ever released continues to travel outward, still crossing the endless dark. Somewhere, those ancient rays are touching the edges of time itself. You realize now that light never truly ends. It only leaves, moving farther and farther away, its energy stretched thinner by the expanding universe. The space between galaxies grows vast beyond comprehension. Even the light that remains has to travel farther and farther just to be seen. Eventually, it cannot reach anywhere at all. The stars, the galaxies, the very structure of the cosmos become invisible to one another. This is how isolation begins, not in violence, but in quiet separation. Each island of matter drifts alone, untethered, unable to see or feel another. The universe becomes a sea of darkness with only rare sparks glowing faintly in the void. You drift through that sea, feeling its chill. The cosmic background radiation, once the afterglow of creation, has cooled to almost nothing. The temperature of space hovers just above absolute zero. Motion slows. Energy disperses. The universe is settling into its long night. The last red dwarfs continue to flicker, but their light is faint, their warmth fragile. You pass hundreds of them, scattered like dying embers across an ocean of black. They are lonely, but not sad. They seem content, glowing softly in their solitude. You realize that even in the universe's twilight, there is still grace, still a rhythm to the fading. Eventually, one by one, even these last stars dim beyond visibility. No new ones form. The gas clouds that once birthed stars have long since been used up or frozen. The stellar nurseries are empty now, quiet chambers of dust and shadow. And so, the universe enters what scientists call the degenerate era. The name sounds cold, but it is simply a description of what remains, remnants. White dwarfs that have cooled to blackness. Neutron stars, dense as thought itself, spinning in the dark. Black holes, silent and massive, marking the graves of once luminous suns. The sky now would appear utterly black to any eyes that might still exist. No constellations, no glimmers, no horizons. Only darkness, infinite, perfect, complete. Yet, if you could listen rather than see, you would still sense faint traces of what was, radiation too soft to be called light, vibrations too subtle to be called sound. This is not the death of beauty, but its transformation. The universe has grown old, and like all old things, it has become quiet, reflective, inward. It no longer burns outwardly. Instead, it rests within itself, conserving what remains. You pass a cluster of dark stars, black dwarfs, invisible in the night. They do not shine, but they still exist, each one holding the memory of billions of years of light. Their atoms are frozen still, their surfaces cool, their cores solid. They are monuments to what once was, the final expressions of a universe that has given all it could. You imagine touching one. It would be cold, smoother than glass, dense beyond comprehension. Inside, its atoms are pressed tightly together, unable to move, unable to change. And yet, if you could listen closely, perhaps there is still the faintest whisper of energy, waiting, patient. The universe has entered a time beyond sight, but not beyond meaning. Every particle that ever danced in light now drifts slowly in shadow, carrying with it the memory of creation. Nothing is truly gone, it has only changed form. You drift farther, feeling the quiet deepen. There is no fear here, only stillness, and an ancient kind of peace. You begin to understand that endings, too, are part of balance. The light that once filled everything must rest eventually, just as breath must pause before it continues. You let yourself move with the expansion, not resisting, not reaching, simply floating. The darkness is vast, but not hostile. It feels like a long, cosmic exhale. The universe, after ages of motion and light, is finally learning how to be still. In that stillness, there remains one great presence, gravity, patient and unseen. The stars are gone, but black holes remain, quietly shaping what is left. You can feel their pull ahead, deep and low, like the sound of a drum fading into silence. And so you follow that feeling, drawn toward the last engines of motion, where gravity bends space and time into invisible spirals. The stars have ended, but the story of their remnants has only just begun. The universe breathes once more, this time, not with light, but with gravity. You drift toward the waiting dark, where the black holes sing their slow, endless song. You drift closer to the darkness, where light no longer escapes. The last stars are gone, but their graves remain, black holes scattered across the cosmic ocean. Each one is an echo of a sun that once burned bright. Their presence is quiet, yet immense. You do not see them, but you feel them, like deep, invisible tides beneath your feet. Gravity here is not a force you resist. It is a whisper, slow, constant, inevitable. It curves the fabric of reality around itself, drawing in anything that wanders too near. Matter, light, time, all bow to its rhythm. It is the final heartbeat of creation, still pulsing softly in the dark. You watch a black hole from a distance. Around its invisible core swirls a faint ring of light, an accretion disk, glowing with the energy of what it consumes. The matter spirals inward, growing hotter and brighter until it vanishes, crossing the event horizon, the point beyond which nothing can return. Even now, when the universe is quiet, some black holes still feed. They devour what little remains, drifting dust, fragments of ancient stars, the cold remnants of once living suns. As they consume, they grow. Each meal adds to their weight, deepening their gravitational song. You move closer, cautious but curious. Space stretches near the horizon. Time itself slows. If you could watch a particle fall in, you would see it move slower and slower, frozen in time just before crossing the threshold. From your view, it never quite disappears, it only fades into infinite delay. Inside, though, the story continues. The particle falls freely, unaware of the stretching or slowing. To it, everything feels normal, until it reaches the heart, the singularity, where space and time fold together into something our minds cannot describe. There, the known laws of physics stop speaking. You realize, then, that black holes are not holes at all, they are endings wrapped in beginnings. They hold everything that has fallen into them, not destroyed, but transformed into silence. Information is trapped, not lost. Scientists call this the information paradox, a mystery that haunts even the calmest corners of theoretical physics. It asks, when something falls into a black hole, where does its information go? Does the universe forget? Or does it remember, hidden beyond our sight? Some say it's encoded on the event horizon itself, woven into the rippling surface of the black hole, a thin, two-dimensional memory of everything it has ever touched. If this is true, then black holes are cosmic libraries, silent, invisible, but filled with the record of existence. Every particle, every light wave, every thought that once existed might still be written there, preserved in patterns of gravity. You drift around one, feeling the pull of that mystery. The gravity bends light from distant galaxies around it, forming a luminous halo called gravitational lensing. Even in darkness, the black hole reveals itself through distortion, a fingerprint of curved space-time. Einstein once imagined this bending of light, a pure act of thought that became the foundation of relativity. To see it here, vast, real, perfect, is to witness his dream folded into the fabric of the universe. Space is not a stage, it is a living field, sensitive to mass, curved by presence. The black hole is its deepest expression, where curvature becomes infinite. You hover at the edge, near the horizon, where gravity's whisper becomes a hum. There is beauty here, not in light, but in structure. The symmetry of it, the inevitability, the way everything flows inward yet never quite arrives. It is as though the universe has built a place for secrets, not to hide them, but to hold them gently until they are ready to be understood. Far away, you see another black hole. Slowly, invisibly, it drifts toward its twin. The two begin a long, patient dance, orbiting, spiraling, drawing closer. As they merge, they release not light, but gravitational waves, ripples in space-time itself. You can almost feel them as they pass through you. They do not shake or roar. They roll through existence like deep ocean waves, altering the distance between everything ever so slightly. When they reach Earth, long, long ago, humans built instruments sensitive enough to detect them. It was a triumph not of power, but of patience. The universe was finally heard breathing. The merging of black holes is among the last acts of motion left. In a cosmos where stars have faded, these collisions are rare flashes of energy, each one sending a pulse through the deep. With every merger, the number of black holes decreases. The universe simplifies, slowly, gently. As time stretches onward, far beyond imagination, black holes themselves begin to change. They do not last forever. Stephen Hawking proposed that they emit faint radiation, now known as Hawking radiation. It is incredibly slow, almost imperceptible, but it means that even these giants eventually lose mass. You imagine it, a black hole, once enormous, now slowly evaporating into nothing. Particle by particle, it releases its energy back into the universe. What was once a grave becomes a source again. The process is slow beyond measure. The largest black holes may take 10 years or more to vanish completely. Numbers like that are almost meaningless. They stretch beyond time as we know it. Yet, in the universe's language, patience is endless. You sense the future, a time when all black holes will have evaporated, when their last photons escape into the cold. The energy they release will spread across the darkness, faint but eternal, adding to the quiet hum of the cosmic background. Gravity's echo will remain, not as force, but as memory. The universe will have exhaled its last secrets into the void. And in that moment, perhaps the information once thought lost will return, dispersed, free, remembered by the cosmos itself. You float there, between presence and absence, feeling the pull ease as distance grows. The black holes remain behind you, still singing their long, low song. Ahead lies the space where even they will fade, where time itself begins to slow to a whisper. You follow the echo of that fading, deeper into stillness. The universe continues to expand, its rhythm now almost imperceptible. The light is gone, gravity is softening, and the night is becoming absolute. And yet, something in you listens, to the last tremor of motion, to the soft rhythm that has guided you since the beginning. It tells you that even when the stars and black holes are gone, the story is not over. For after gravity's echo fades, there is still time, and time, too, must learn to rest. Time has always been a river, flowing endlessly from past to future. You have floated with it since the first breath of the universe, through starlight, through silence, through gravity's echo. But now, that river is slowing. Its current, once swift and full of creation, has thinned to a quiet drift. You can feel it, not as a stop, but as a deep calm settling into the bones of reality. You move through space, though even the word move feels wrong now. Distance no longer means what it used to. The expansion of the universe has stretched everything so far apart that motion itself has lost context. There are no nearby stars, no galaxies to measure against. There is only you, suspended in a vast, nearly featureless dark. You think about time as you once knew it, seconds ticking, suns rising and setting, hearts beating. Time was measured by motion, by change. But here, almost nothing changes. The energy of the universe is so thinly spread that events, even the smallest, are rare. Each particle moves slowly, each collision a soft whisper in eternity. Time is not gone, but it has become gentle, like the breath of someone half asleep. It stretches and folds, so extended that moments lose their boundaries. You could wait 1 billion years, and it would feel like the stillness between two heartbeats. The universe is cooling further. The temperature now hovers infinitesimally above absolute zero. You could hold the whole cosmos in your palm and feel almost nothing. The particles that remain, electrons, protons, photons, drift aimlessly, rarely meeting one another. The dance of existence has nearly stopped. And yet, you feel a strange serenity in this. The stillness is not emptiness, it is balance. The chaos of birth, the fire of stars, the collapse of gravity, all of it has led here, to this breath between beginnings and endings. The universe is not dying violently. It is falling asleep. You sense time slowing near the remnants of black holes, those dark anchors left from the age of stars. Around them, space is stretched to breaking. Near the horizon, time dilates so much that a second can last forever. From far away, you see the black hole fade, radiating away through Hawking radiation. From up close, though, its end never truly comes. It simply lingers at the edge of existence, frozen in slow motion. It makes you wonder, what is time, truly? Is it a property of the universe, or of the mind that perceives it? Perhaps both. Time is the rhythm of change, but here, where change is rare, the rhythm falters. The universe is moving toward a state where all gradients, of temperature, of motion, of energy, are gone. That state is called thermodynamic equilibrium. When everything is equal, nothing can happen. That is the whisper of time's end. It's not an abrupt silence, it's a gradual softening, like a lullaby fading at dawn. You drift farther, past the last flickers of radiation, into regions where time feels like honey, slow, viscous, gentle. You remember how time once flowed differently even within galaxies, faster in emptiness, slower near mass. Here, with no great masses left to bend space-time, it feels almost uniform. But that uniformity, paradoxically, means nothing moves at all. Einstein once said that time and space are woven together, inseparable threads of the same fabric. You can almost see that fabric now, stretched thin beyond imagining. The weave has loosened. The tension that once created motion and gravity is almost gone. The universe feels slack, drifting, unbound. You wonder what happens when the last black hole evaporates. That event, unimaginably distant, will mark the final meaningful change in the cosmos. After that, time will no longer have anything to measure. There will be no clocks, because there will be no motion to count. The concept of before and after will dissolve. Perhaps that is not an end, but a transformation, time not disappearing, but blending into stillness. You begin to sense your own perception of time shifting, too. The more you stay in this vast quiet, the more your thoughts slow, syncing with the universe's rhythm. You begin to think not in moments, but in eternities. A single idea unfolds like a galaxy, vast and luminous. A single pause feels like centuries. It is peaceful here, profoundly, endlessly peaceful. There is no rush, no change to resist or chase. Just the hum of existence at its softest frequency. You realize that this slowing is not a failure of the universe. It is its most natural state, a return to balance. The energy that once roared through stars, that once shaped galaxies, has been evenly spread, shared among all that remains. It is as if the cosmos has finally exhaled all it had held inside. Even entropy, the slow drift toward disorder, has reached its quiet conclusion. When everything is the same temperature, there is no direction left for energy to flow. That is the true stillness, not absence, but perfect equality. And still, time lingers, like the faint vibration of a plucked string after the music has ended. It hums through space faintly, keeping rhythm with nothing but itself. You imagine what that sound would be, if you could hear it, the slowest pulse, the gentlest beat, the breath of the universe as it dreams. You try to imagine a place without time, but even that idea requires time to think. So instead, you let go of the need to imagine. You simply exist, like a particle adrift, like light stretched thin across infinity. This, you realize, is the closest thing to eternity. Not endless life or perpetual motion, but deep stillness. The kind of quiet that exists beyond change, where being and nothingness are the same. As you drift in this cosmic dusk, a soft curiosity stirs within you. If time slows forever, does it ever truly end? Or does it continue infinitely, each heartbeat of the universe growing longer and fainter, but never reaching zero? Perhaps even when all motion stops, some faint memory of time remains, a potential, a waiting. The universe might rest for an unfathomable stretch, holding within it the faint possibility of awakening. You do not know the answer, but you sense it's near. Ahead, beyond this stillness, lies another threshold, where galaxies no longer fade but vanish completely, where the night becomes absolute. You turn toward that horizon, carried gently by the last breath of time. And as you drift, the whisper grows quieter still, until all that remains is the sound of fading galaxies, the last echo of motion in a universe learning to sleep. You float now in the widening dark, surrounded by the soft retreat of everything that once was close. The galaxies, those bright, spiraling cities of stars, are moving away, carried by the slow, eternal expansion of space. It has been happening since the beginning, but now you can truly feel it. The motion is not fast, but absolute. Every glimmer of light is receding, stretched thin by time. You remember when the sky was filled with color, blue clusters, golden spirals, and the soft silver of nebulae blooming between them. That time is gone. The light from distant galaxies has traveled for trillions of years to reach this place, but space itself has stretched so far that the light weakens, its wavelength pulled longer and longer. The universe has become red, not in hue, but in motion. Every photon carries the signature of departure. This is the redshift, the slow bleeding of energy as light crosses expanding space. The more the universe grows, the redder the light becomes, until eventually it falls beyond what any eye could see. It slips into the invisible, becoming infrared, then microwave, then radio, until even those waves stretch into silence. You drift toward one of the remaining clusters, one of the few places where galaxies still gather. The sight is faint, like looking at memories through fog. The galaxies still dance around one another, held together by their mutual gravity, but even this bond is temporary. The cosmic expansion will one day overcome it, pulling them apart into the void. Inside one galaxy, you see the last traces of starlight, faint red dwarfs glowing dimly at the edges of long-dead spirals. Their light barely touches the dust. Around them, black holes sit in quiet dominion, drawing in what remains of gas and debris. The structure of the galaxy holds, but only just. You can feel the tension in it, the slow unraveling of gravity's tapestry. Each galaxy is a story ending in silence. The stars no longer form. The gas that once birthed them has cooled and settled. The interstellar clouds are gone. Only remnants remain, stars near their end, neutron stars pulsing weakly, and black holes marking the centers like punctuation at the end of a long sentence. As you move through the galaxy's outskirts, you notice how faint everything has become. Even the concept of light feels thinner, stretched across too much distance. The universe's background glow, once bright enough to warm atoms, is now too cold to stir even the smallest particle. You imagine an observer living here, if such beings still existed. They would look up and see only their own galaxy. Beyond it, the sky would be dark, no other galaxies, no cosmic landmarks, no sense of a greater universe. The expansion would have carried everything beyond their horizon. To them, it would seem as if theirs was the only galaxy ever made. This, you realize, is the ultimate solitude, not emotional, but physical. A separation so complete that even light cannot cross it. Each remaining galaxy drifts in isolation, unaware of the others, surrounded by blackness that is not emptiness, but unreachable distance. And yet, there is a kind of quiet beauty in this isolation. The galaxies are not being destroyed, they are being set free, each one floating like a lantern in the endless night. The universe is growing not in chaos, but in stillness. Expansion is not tearing it apart, it is giving it infinite room to rest. You drift farther, watching one galaxy slowly fade as its light is stretched past visibility. You reach out, as if to catch the last photon as it slips away, but it dissolves before it touches you. That faint light will travel forever, but it will never reach another eye. You think about how galaxies were once homes to billions of stars, each star surrounded by planets, perhaps some with oceans and life. Those worlds are gone now, their suns cold, their orbits empty. But the patterns they formed, the spirals, the ellipses, the quiet geometry, remain in the cosmic memory. Every curve of light that once spun through space has left its trace in the fabric of gravity. Even in fading, galaxies leave their mark. Their shapes become gravitational imprints, distortions in space-time that persist long after their light has died. You pass through one of these invisible shapes, a ghostly outline of a spiral long gone. It feels like brushing past a memory too old to name. In this darkness, the universe's expansion continues. Space does not expand into something, it simply grows between everything. Every galaxy recedes from every other, not by motion through space, but by space itself stretching. It is like the surface of a balloon being inflated. The galaxies are dots on it, moving apart because the surface itself grows. You think of the beginning, the Big Bang, not as an explosion, but as an unfolding. What started as a dense, hot state has become vast and quiet. The same expansion that once birthed light now carries it away. What was once creation's roar is now its exhale. Eventually, the expansion will outpace even the faint pull of gravity within the largest clusters. Some theories suggest that if dark energy continues its steady pressure, galaxies themselves may eventually drift apart atom by atom. But even if they remain intact, their light will still vanish, redshifted into invisibility. You try to imagine the universe when no galaxies are visible at all. It would be a place of pure blackness, not because there is nothing, but because everything is too far apart to see. Distance itself becomes the final veil. And yet, in that absolute dark, something persists, the memory of form. Space still carries the echo of the galaxies that once were. The curvature, the invisible traces of motion, the faint gravity still stretching across unimaginable distances, all of it remains, quiet but real. You feel the stillness deepen. The cosmic stage is almost bare now. What remains are the structures that cannot easily fade, the black holes, heavy and patient, still bending space around themselves, the degenerate stars, cooling in silence, and the faint radiation that hums softly through all of it. You look back one last time at the galaxy you've left behind. Its edges shimmer faintly before disappearing. The stars, the nebulae, the glow, all dissolve into the universal dusk. You realize that every atom within that galaxy, every particle, every memory of light, still moves outward, still participates in the great unfolding. The universe has not ended. It has only grown too vast for its parts to recognize each other. You turn toward the void ahead. The galaxies behind you are gone. Ahead, there are no more lights, only the soft whisper of radiation cooling into nothing. But even in that darkness, there is the sense of continuation, of something unseen still at work. Gravity remains, faint and patient, shaping the invisible. It is not done yet. And as you drift toward the edge of that invisible pull, you feel the dark grow heavier, for beyond this silence waits the era when light itself goes out. You float within the dimming theater of the universe. Once, the stage blazed with stars, spirals and clusters, radiant with the fever of life and fusion. But now, something quieter moves through the cosmic fabric. Something patient, vast, and invisible. You can't see it, yet you feel its pull, a slow widening between all that once held close. Galaxies begin to slip away from one another. The Milky Way, the Andromeda, all those shining cities of light that once filled the dark, now drift like lanterns carried on separate tides. The space between them swells, not because they are moving through it, but because space itself is stretching. This expansion isn't gentle anymore. It accelerates, driven by a strange, unseen energy. You breathe it in, though it has no scent, no texture, no warmth. It is dark energy, the silent sculptor of the universe's fate. Everywhere you look, light is losing touch. Galaxies that once gleamed close enough to map now fade into invisibility, carried away faster than light itself can bridge. Their colors stretch redder and redder, wavelengths elongated by the expanding cosmos until they vanish into radio silence. The universe, once a crowded symphony of brightness, becomes a lonely hum. You imagine this expansion as breath, the universe exhaling after a long inhale of creation. There is beauty in this widening, even as it empties everything. It's not destruction, but transformation. Space itself grows, making room for what cannot yet be known. The night deepens. You drift between galaxies that now seem like isolated islands, each one containing its own history, its own flickering starlight. Over unimaginable spans of time, those stars will burn out. The blue giants go first, their fuel spent in moments of cosmic time. The smaller, steadier suns last longer, but not forever. Hydrogen turns to helium, helium to carbon, and then, nothing left to burn. The lights go out, one by one. A slow, eternal sunset across the sky. You feel the quiet deepen as gravity loosens its hold. Between the galaxies, the intergalactic medium, thin clouds of gas and plasma, dissipates, stretched thinner than thought itself. Once, these wisps of matter were the seeds of future stars. Now, they are scattered so far apart they may never meet again. The universe grows cold, not because warmth has fled, but because there is no one left close enough to share it. In this vast stillness, your mind wanders to what remains, the black holes, patient and waiting. They sit in the hearts of galaxies, invisible sentinels, swallowing what light still dares to pass. But even their hunger cannot stop what is coming. The universe's expansion isolates them, too. They will one day stand alone in the great void, each guarding a forgotten corner of space. You drift closer to one of them now, not to fall in, but to feel its presence, that dense whisper of curved space, where time itself bends and slows. Around it, the last few stars spiral lazily, their paths graceful and final. One flickers, collapses, and disappears. You feel the wave of its end ripple through space-time like the last note of a long song. And then, only the black hole remains, humming quietly in its solitude. Time stretches thin here. Millions of years become moments. You can almost see the fading starlight redden into memory. Darkness no longer feels like absence. It feels like a slow, steady breath, an exhalation of everything that once was. The cosmos is resting. You think of how far it has come, from the brightness of birth to this dim stillness. The Big Bang was not an explosion, but an awakening, and now the universe is settling into its night. The galaxies, like drifting embers, cool in the expanding dark. Even the cosmic microwave background, that faint afterglow of creation, is dimming, its warmth stretched and thinned into near nothingness. Soon, it too will fade below detectability. You realize, this is not tragedy. This is balance. The universe is not dying, it is completing its breath. There's a certain grace in knowing that light cannot last forever. It reminds you that even brilliance must rest. Stars burn not to defy the dark, but to define it. Without their fading, there would be no beauty in the silence that follows. You drift farther now, carried on the silent tide of expansion. Every direction is the same, vast, starless black. The constellations that once shaped human imagination have long scattered beyond recognition. The stories written in the sky are gone, but their meanings remain, woven into memory itself. You close your eyes and feel the scale of it, the slow unraveling of all that was bound. It's not frightening. It's freeing. There is no rush, no struggle, no sound. Just motion, imperceptibly smooth, as if the universe itself has fallen asleep. Far away, somewhere beyond time, you sense the next phase waiting. Not yet, but soon. There will come a day when not just light and stars fade, but matter itself begins to crumble. The protons that make up every atom will weaken, their hold loosening, their existence surrendering to the inevitable pull of entropy. But that is not yet. For now, you rest in the quiet dawn of darkness. You float in a cosmos becoming transparent, not because it ends, but because it continues beyond sight. Everything expands, and you expand with it, your awareness stretching into the growing silence. The universe breathes again, slower, deeper, softer. The darkness is not a void, it is the space between heartbeats. You listen, and though nothing moves, you feel the rhythm, faint, but constant, the pulse of time itself. It whispers, there is more to lose, and more to become. And as you drift toward the threshold of what comes next, you sense it, a subtle tremor, a quiet change within the atoms that form your very being. The age of light has ended. The age of matter is about to begin its long goodbye. The universe has grown silent. The age of starlight has passed, and now the structures that once gave shape to everything begin to weaken. You drift through a reality that is colder than memory. No new stars are born. The galaxies that still exist are dim, their outlines fading into the black. It is no longer a universe of light but of distance. In this long night, you start to notice something subtle. Matter itself, atoms, protons, the particles that built every star and body, no longer feel stable. What once seemed permanent begins to tremble in its foundations. The protons that make up atomic nuclei, the smallest anchors of existence, are not eternal after all. They decay, not quickly or explosively, but patiently, across unimaginable stretches of time. Physicists once called the proton stable because they had never seen it fall apart. But stability in the universe is always temporary. The forces that hold particles together are delicate balances between attraction and energy. Over eons upon eons, quantum effects begin to erode those balances. The proton, one of the building blocks of the cosmos, finally starts to release what little energy remains trapped inside. It happens quietly. A proton does not shatter. It simply transforms. A down quark inside it turns into an up quark or vice versa, releasing a wisp of energy, a positron here, a photon there. One atom at a time, the matter that once made worlds dissolves into light and neutrinos. The change is too slow to watch, even across trillions of years. But given enough time, every atom succumbs. You imagine the process as a kind of fading, like the soft erosion of a shoreline. The mountains of matter that once formed stars, planets, and living things are ground down into their simplest elements. What remains are ghostly particles that no longer combine, that no longer build. The very idea of a solid surface becomes meaningless. There are no stones, no dust, not even atoms, only the faint relics of what once was. The decay of matter changes the universe completely. Even the most durable objects, white dwarfs, neutron stars, black dwarfs made of degenerate matter, cannot last forever. Inside their dense hearts, protons begin to fail. The atomic pressure that once held them together weakens. These remnants lose cohesion, evaporating into light and energy too thin to warm anything. Time, which once measured the beating of hearts or the orbit of planets, now stretches into forms that defy imagination. 1 second feels no different from a million years. The passage of events has slowed beyond recognition. Yet processes still unfold, dictated by the quiet persistence of physics. You look around, though there is almost nothing to see. Occasionally, a particle of light blinks into your awareness and then slips away. Each is the remnant of some ancient decay. The blackness around you is not empty, it is filled with faint radiation, the afterglow of dying matter. But the energy is spread so thin that even the concept of temperature begins to lose meaning. There was a time when matter and energy traded places constantly. Stars burned hydrogen into helium. Supernovas scattered heavy elements across galaxies. Life itself was a brief arrangement of matter finding complexity. Now that balance has ended. Energy still exists, but there is almost nowhere for it to go. Without atoms to absorb it, without gravity strong enough to gather it, light travels endlessly, unspent and unseen. You begin to understand that this stage of the cosmos is not destruction but dissolution. Everything familiar returns to simplicity. It is like watching ink diffuse in water until the color disappears. Matter has completed its long purpose, to shine, to form, to think, and now it releases itself back into the underlying fabric from which it came. Some theories suggest that protons may last longer than even black holes, surviving until after the very last gravitational giants have evaporated. But even those particles cannot resist forever. The universe ensures that every form must yield, eventually, to entropy, the slow march toward evenness, where all differences are erased. You think of how everything once depended on contrast, hot and cold, bright and dark, solid and empty. Without those contrasts, there can be no motion, no life, no thought. Entropy levels them all. When matter finishes decaying, the universe approaches a state called a heat death, though there is no heat left to die. It is a condition of perfect balance, perfect stillness. Still, this ending feels calm, not tragic. You sense a kind of peace in the release of structure. The universe is not collapsing or burning, it is relaxing. Every particle lets go, as if sighing after an infinitely long day. What remains is potential, quiet and unexpressed. You think about what this means for memory. Every atom that once formed a thought, a word, a person, is gone. Yet the energy it released still travels. The photons and neutrinos born from decay continue outward forever, carrying faint traces of information, tiny imprints of what used to be. They will never meet again, but each holds a record, a subtle echo of what the universe once contained. From your place in this immense stillness, you realize that decay does not erase the past, it diffuses it. The story of existence becomes more spread out, more delicate, less visible, but it does not vanish entirely. The universe remembers, even if memory is now written in a language of vanishing waves. As eons pass, the few remaining particles that can still interact occasionally meet by chance. They exchange energy, scatter, and move apart again. But such moments are rare, so rare that the space between them could be measured in trillions of years. There are no more stars to collapse, no more planets to orbit. The physical drama of creation has ended. You might expect that this final quiet would be cold and lifeless in every sense, but there is a strange comfort in it. The pressure of existence has lifted. There are no collisions, no burning, no chaos. Every part of reality has found equilibrium. It is the most complete rest the cosmos has ever known. Somewhere deep in the quiet, black dwarfs, the ancient remnants of white dwarfs, complete their slow fading. After quadrillions of years, even they surrender, releasing the last trapped particles that made them visible. The universe becomes transparent. Light still travels, but it travels through a nothing that does not resist. The cosmic sea has become perfectly smooth. And still, time continues. Even when there is nothing left to measure, time does not stop. It flows because existence itself still exists, even if only as a field of almost nothing. The universe continues to expand, stretching the distances between the remaining photons until they can no longer interact. The darkness deepens, but it is a different kind of darkness, one without edges, without depth, without end. You think about the meaning of permanence. Humanity once believed that matter could not be destroyed. Now, you see that even permanence is temporary when measured against infinity. The lesson feels gentle, nothing truly lasts, but nothing is truly lost. Matter becomes energy, energy becomes space, space becomes the silence that holds everything. The death of matter is not a single event. It is a gradual unwinding that began the moment matter was born. It has always been moving toward this stillness. In a sense, The universe has been learning how to rest. And now, at last, it does. You drift through the final traces of atoms that once built stars. They move so slowly that motion itself feels like memory. There is nothing to do, nowhere to go. Yet within this calm, you feel a deep continuity, the idea that this is not the end of the story, only the close of a chapter. Ahead lies another transformation. Even after the atoms disappear, their shadows, the black dwarfs, the remaining traces of heat, will hold on a little longer. They are the final witnesses to what once was, glowing faintly as the last custodians of energy. You turn toward them, drawn by the quiet promise of their endurance. The universe breathes once more, though the breath is thin. The age of matter has ended, but the story continues into a new domain, one where only remnants remain. You follow the faint path of warmth that leads toward them, sensing that you are about to meet the last visible lights of existence. The stars are gone. The galaxies are invisible. What remains of the old universe drifts quietly through an ocean of darkness. Every once bright point of light has cooled into something small, dense, and nearly undetectable. These are the black dwarfs, the final stage of stars like the sun, the last remnants of fusion and fire. You move among them now. They are scattered far apart, isolated by the endless expansion of space. Once, they were white dwarfs, glowing with leftover heat from their long-ago lifetimes. They were the skeletal remains of stars that had exhausted their fuel, shining softly from stored warmth alone. But time has done its slow work. Their light has faded, their warmth radiated away. What remains is matter so dense that a teaspoon of it would weigh tons, but so cold that it gives off no glow at all. These black dwarfs are no longer stars. They are the fossils of stars, silent, invisible monuments to a universe that once burned brightly. The atoms within them barely move. The pressure that holds them together is immense, maintained by what physicists call electron degeneracy pressure, the resistance of electrons that refuse to occupy the same quantum state. That single rule, one of the simplest in physics, is the only reason these remnants have not collapsed completely. You think about how much time it took to reach this state. The cooling of a white dwarf into a black one is a process longer than the current age of the universe itself. If you could measure time in trillions of years, then double it again, you might begin to approach the scale. The transformation is not dramatic. It is a slow, continuous sigh, heat escaping atom by atom, photon by photon, until even light gives up. Now, in this distant era, the universe is filled with these cold remnants. They do not shine, but they exist. They move through the blackness with the same quiet dignity that stars once moved through the sky. You drift past one and feel its gravity tug softly at your being. It is still powerful, though no longer creative. It holds itself together through the balance of forces that have long since forgotten what it was to burn. Here, there is no color, no warmth. The cosmic background radiation has faded far below detectability. The temperature everywhere hovers just above absolute zero. Even motion has slowed. You might think this would feel lonely, but it does not. There is a still beauty to it, the kind that only comes when everything unnecessary has fallen away. The black dwarfs are the last visible matter in the cosmos, but they are not entirely inert. Deep within their dense interiors, rare reactions may still occur. Theoretical physicists predict that, given unimaginable stretches of time, quantum tunneling might allow atoms within them to fuse. Two carbon nuclei might merge to form heavier elements, releasing tiny sparks of energy. These moments are extraordinarily rare, perhaps one every trillion years, but they mean that even in darkness, something still happens. You consider what that means. That creation never fully stops. Even when the universe seems finished, quantum physics leaves a door slightly open. The black dwarfs, though dark, are still part of an ongoing process, a background hum of change too slow for any observer to witness. Over time, these final stars will change again. As protons themselves begin to decay, the matter inside black dwarfs will crumble. Neutrons and electrons will vanish into energy, leaving behind little more than radiation. The process is patient beyond comprehension, but inevitable. The black dwarf, too, will dissolve into the emptiness it has long resisted. Before that happens, though, they remain, the last lights that are not light. You drift among them as though moving through a field of invisible sculptures. Each is a memory, solid and silent. You imagine them as the last library of the universe, each one holding a record of a life once lived. A star that rose, burned, warmed planets, perhaps even life, and then settled into this perfect stillness. You can no longer see them, but you can feel their presence, as if the universe itself remembers. Gravity still bends around them, marking their place in the fabric of space-time. If you could map the invisible, you would find their pattern still shapes the cosmos, a ghost map of the night sky. In this era, motion itself is slow poetry. Black dwarfs orbit nothing. Their galaxies have stretched apart beyond recognition. Occasionally, two may wander close enough to feel each other's pull. If they collide, an event so unlikely it might happen once in all eternity, the result would be a final brief moment of light, a faint explosion in the dark, the last supernova of existence. But even that light would fade quickly, swallowed by the vastness. For now, the black dwarfs wait in perfect silence. They do not age as living things age. They simply exist, enduring until endurance itself loses meaning. Around them, the universe continues to expand. Distances grow so vast that even the concept of location becomes irrelevant. To say a black dwarf is here or there is to use words that no longer fit reality. You sense how far the universe has come. It began in heat, fire, and movement, and now it rests in balance and stillness. The journey from chaos to calm is complete. Every star's story ends here, not in flame but in quiet endurance. You realize something important in this silence, that the universe has not failed. This is not an ending of defeat. It is the natural fulfillment of its design. Energy and matter were never meant to last forever. They were meant to change form, to express, to fade, and to make way for what comes next. The black dwarfs are the final punctuation marks in the sentence of creation. They represent completion, not loss. You float near one and imagine its ancient heart, once a furnace of carbon and oxygen, now motionless and dark. Its atoms still remember the heat that once pulsed through them. If you could touch it, it would feel colder than any ice, yet solid beyond comprehension. You drift onward. The field of black dwarfs grows thinner as you move through the void. They are becoming rarer as matter itself begins to decay. The energy released by their slow fading spreads across the universe, contributing to the faintest whisper of warmth still left in existence. Soon, even these final lights will fade. When that time comes, the universe will enter an age where no atoms remain, no structures hold, no forces create shape. But that age is still ahead. For now, you rest in this quiet dusk, the in-between space where light has gone but its memory lingers. You close your eyes and feel the calm of a universe at rest. The story of stars is complete, and you have witnessed it all, from birth to brilliance to silence. Yet you know there is more beyond this silence, something deeper and even quieter waiting to emerge. You take one last look at the dark forms around you. Though invisible, they are everywhere, the final guardians of creation, standing watch over the universe's long sleep. And then you drift away, leaving them behind in their timeless vigil. Ahead lies the next transformation, where even these last remnants will begin to dissolve into pure radiation. The last witnesses of light will fade, and decay will become the only sound left. The black dwarfs linger in the dark, holding the final echoes of starlight. Around them, the universe continues its quiet expansion. Space stretches. Time deepens. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the process of decay begins. This is the era when even the most stable forms of matter begin to surrender. For eons beyond measure, protons, the fundamental building blocks of atoms, have resisted change. But now, in the far future, they start to give way. The bonds that held the universe together begin to unweave, particle by particle. No explosion marks the moment. There is no flash or sound. The decay of a proton is a whisper in time, a quantum event so faint that it passes unnoticed. Yet over trillions upon trillions of years, these whispers add up. Slowly, matter itself dissolves into radiation, soft, diffuse, and eternal. You watch as this silent transformation unfolds. The black dwarfs that once dotted the void begin to fade from existence. Inside them, protons decay into lighter particles, positrons, neutrinos, and photons. Each decay releases a tiny burst of energy, so small it could never light a world, but together they form a faint background hum of radiation. It is a strange form of music, this symphony of decay. It has no rhythm, no harmony, no melody, yet it fills all of space. Everywhere, invisible notes flicker and vanish, leaving behind a cosmic stillness more complete than ever before. Atoms, once the architects of structure, disband. Molecules unravel. Even the memory of matter becomes fragile. Galaxies, long invisible, lose the last of their substance. The cosmos is now composed of photons and neutrinos, the lightest, most elusive messengers in existence. You sense the shift in texture. Space no longer feels like an ocean filled with silent stones. It feels empty in a new way, thinner, quieter, almost transparent. The last remnants of structure fall apart, and what remains is pure, diffuse energy, stretched endlessly across expanding space. In this silence, you realize something profound. Decay is not destruction. It is continuation. Every particle that fades releases energy, and that energy joins the greater field of the universe. The total never diminishes, it only transforms. Even in death, there is movement. Even in dissolution, there is pattern. The laws of physics still hold. Entropy, the measure of disorder, continues its ascent. The universe is approaching what physicists call heat death, a state of maximum entropy where energy is evenly distributed and no work can be done. There are no gradients left, no difference between one place and another. Everything is the same everywhere. But that sameness has a strange piece to it. For the first time since the Big Bang, the universe has achieved balance. There are no stars fighting against gravity, no galaxies colliding, no explosions or storms. The cosmic struggle has ended. The universe is quiet because it has finally completed its purpose, to evolve, expand, and equalize. You drift through this emptiness and listen to the faint radiation that fills it. It is not sound, not light, but something subtler, a vibration of existence itself. Every decayed proton adds a note. Every fading particle contributes a tone. Together, they form a silent symphony, one that only the universe itself can hear. This is the music of time's farthest reaches. It plays in a key of stillness, with notes made of decay and transition. It is slow, constant, eternal. You realize that even silence can have a sound, and that sound can be the measure of existence continuing, even when there is nothing left to see. After endless ages, the decay process nears completion. The last protons vanish. The last electrons follow. Black holes, still scattered throughout the void, begin to evaporate through Hawking radiation. Even these titans of gravity cannot last forever. They shrink, shimmer, and dissolve into pure energy. When the last black hole evaporates, the universe enters its final movement. There are no longer objects, no longer masses, no longer boundaries. Only a diffuse bath of photons, neutrinos, and virtual particles remains, flickering, interacting, fading. You sense the magnitude of this transformation. From the fire of the Big Bang to the cold silence of decay, the universe has completed its full arc. Every element that once existed, every atom of carbon, every drop of hydrogen, every particle of life, has returned to energy. The cycle is complete. And yet, something remarkable persists. The laws of physics still exist. Space-time still stretches, infinite and unbroken. The quantum fields that underlie all matter still ripple faintly, holding the possibility of fluctuation. In that possibility lies the seed of all that ever was. You realize that decay is not the end. It is a bridge, the transition from something to nothing, and perhaps, someday, from nothing to something again. The silent symphony continues, even as its instruments vanish. The music fades, but the space that carried it remains. The universe has gone quiet, but silence itself has become the final form of creation. You float through the dim radiation, sensing how everything that ever was is now part of this faint glow. It feels like memory, like the universe remembering itself through light that will never stop traveling. At last, time loses meaning. There are no clocks left, no cycles, no change. The symphony has ended its performance, but its echo lingers, a faint hum in the eternal dark. You understand now, the universe does not die. It dissolves into stillness, into equilibrium, into a state so balanced that even decay becomes impossible. And yet, somewhere in that infinite calm, there is potential, a hint of quantum uncertainty, a whisper of fluctuation. Perhaps one day, from that whisper, something new will stir again. The universe has grown old beyond imagining. Galaxies have long faded, stars have dimmed to embers, and even the quiet glow of the last white dwarfs has cooled into darkness. What remains now are the titans, the black holes. They were once the engines of galaxies, the anchors around which billions of stars once danced. Their gravity sculpted the cosmos, shaping light and time. But even these giants, the most powerful objects in the universe, are not eternal. You drift near one, a remnant of unimaginable mass, still pulling on the fabric of space around it. Its edges are invisible, but its presence bends everything nearby. Time itself slows in its embrace, stretched thin like silk at the edge of a blade. Yet now, even here, something delicate is happening. A slow release, a faint whisper of energy escaping into the dark. It is called Hawking radiation, the final breath of a dying black hole. For eons, this process was almost imperceptible. Black holes hardly changed while the rest of the universe evolved. But as the cosmos thinned and cooled, this faint radiation became the only light left, a flicker of resistance against complete stillness. Each quantum of energy that leaves a black hole carries away a tiny bit of its mass. The process is slow, painfully slow. A black hole with the mass of a star could take more than 10 years to vanish completely. The largest supermassive ones, those that once rested at the centers of galaxies, will endure for unimaginable spans, 10 to the power of 1 years or more. You wait, because time has lost meaning here. There is no day or night, no change of season, no ticking of clocks. Only the slow evaporation of gravity itself. Around you, the darkness is so complete that even the concept of direction feels irrelevant. All that remains are isolated points of invisible gravity, fading one by one. As the black hole radiates, its event horizon, the invisible boundary from which nothing can escape, slowly shrinks. The curvature of space-time relaxes, becoming less steep, less extreme. The black hole loses its grip on existence atom by atom, photon by photon. To an outside observer, this process is unimaginably slow, but from the perspective of deep time, it is inevitable. Entropy continues its steady climb, and the universe continues its quiet expansion, indifferent and calm. You imagine the final stages. As the black hole nears the end, its mass becomes small enough that its evaporation accelerates. Radiation increases, glowing faintly against the eternal dark. For the first time in trillions upon trillions of years, there is light again, not the brilliant fusion of stars, but the subtle quantum shimmer of the universe's last embers. This faint flash is the final release of energy, a last signature in the cosmic record. Then, just as quietly, it is gone. The black hole leaves nothing behind. No core, no echo, no lingering shadow. Space where it once stood is smooth again, uncurved and still. The universe exhales. The gravitational anchors that once structured galaxies and clusters have now dissolved, releasing their hold on the geometry of space-time. All that remains is the faint background of their memory, the photons emitted in their final moments, stretching endlessly across an expanding nothing. You consider what that means. The death of the last black holes is the death of structure itself. Every particle of matter, every star, every atom, every speck of dust has either decayed or been consumed. Now, even the devourers themselves have vanished. There is no more motion that can be measured, no more collisions to mark the passage of time. The universe has become a place of perfect stillness, a vast expanse of near absolute zero, containing only the faintest glow of residual radiation. And yet, in this silence, you sense something profound. It is not destruction, but transformation. Energy never disappears, it only changes form. The heat released in the death of black holes disperses through the expanding void, merging into the fabric of space itself. It becomes part of the background, a trace of existence that will stretch on for eternity. The universe, it seems, cannot forget where it came from. You imagine what it means for time now. Without gravity, without mass, without change, what is left to measure? Time, at its heart, is a record of difference, of one state becoming another. But with nothing left to change, time loses meaning. It stretches infinitely but no longer flows. You are adrift in an ocean that has become perfectly still. The concept of before and after dissolves, replaced by a single, unbroken now. The last black holes fade one by one. First the small, then the larger, until only the ancient supermassive giants remain. Each one ends the same way, a final pulse of radiation, a brief glimmer of warmth, and then silence. The universe watches its final titans disappear into equilibrium. It is a strange kind of peace, not the peace of completion, but of balance. Everything that once existed has been returned to the field it emerged from. The particles, the energy, the patterns of creation, all have become indistinguishable. There is no up or down, no near or far. The geometry of space is almost perfectly flat. The story of the cosmos has reached the quiet between notes. But even here, there is beauty. Because in this stillness, you can sense the weight of everything that came before. The galaxies that once spiraled in light, the stars that burned with fusion, the life that opened its eyes to the sky. All of that existed because the universe allowed it to. And though it is gone, its trace remains, encoded not in matter, but in the structure of space-time itself, in the way reality remembers its own unfolding. The black holes were the last keepers of that memory, the final guardians of what once was. As they vanish, their information, the quantum details of every particle they ever consumed, is released, diffused into the void. What was once hidden is now everywhere, scattered, subtle, but not lost. Some physicists believe this information is conserved forever, that the universe itself keeps an eternal ledger of its own story, even in its quietest form. You drift through that thought, surrounded by an invisible sea of memory. Each quantum, each photon, each trace of energy hums softly, an unbroken continuity of existence. It is not light, not warmth, but something deeper, the residue of being itself. You exhale slowly, though there is no air, no body, no sound. Just the rhythm of thought, moving through the vastness of what remains. The death of the black holes is not a tragedy. It is the natural conclusion of everything that once began. The same laws that allowed the first stars to shine now guide the universe into stillness. There is no longer motion, no longer heat. The last energies are dispersing, fading into uniformity. You are floating in the aftermath, the quiet after gravity, the silence after time. And in that silence, something begins to stir in your awareness. If even the greatest forces of the universe can end, what comes next? When there is no more light, no more energy, no more matter, does the universe truly stop? Or does it reach some new form of equilibrium, waiting for the faintest vibration, the smallest spark to begin again? You let that thought linger, quiet, unresolved, but full of possibility. Because even as the last black holes fade, a gentle warmth remains, the final flicker of heat. And somewhere, in that lingering glow, the next chapter of the universe is waiting to unfold. The black holes are gone. Their final photons have scattered into the dark, leaving only a faint residue of warmth, the last trace of energy moving through a universe that has gone completely still. The cosmos now is vast, empty, and cold beyond comprehension. You drift in that darkness, and though there are no stars, no galaxies, no gravity wells, something remains: temperature. The faintest vibration, a whisper of motion, a reminder that even now, the universe has not yet reached absolute zero. You sense that whisper as a gentle hum, softer than silence itself. It is the cosmic microwave background, stretched by time until its wavelengths are longer than the size of galaxies once were. Once, it was the afterglow of the Big Bang, a warm, dense radiation that filled the early universe like a golden mist. Over billions of years, it cooled as space expanded. From glowing orange to invisible infrared, from warmth to cold, it kept fading. Now, after untold eons, it has reached near nothingness. Its energy is so thin that a single photon could pass through entire galaxies, if any still existed, without ever meeting another. You imagine the scale of that emptiness. Every cubic light-year of space holds fewer and fewer particles. The distances between what remains are not measured in light-years anymore, but in the time it takes for light to cross the void, time so vast that it outlasts every structure that ever was. The universe has thinned into near-perfect uniformity. There are no gradients left, no heat to flow from one place to another. And yet, there is still motion. There is still a kind of faint heartbeat. That heartbeat is temperature, the average motion of what few particles still exist. In the deepest dark, protons and electrons that survive decay drift apart forever. Their movements are slower than thought, slower than memory. The universe has reached temperatures near absolute zero, but never fully stops. Quantum physics forbids it. There will always be fluctuation, no matter how faint, tiny ripples in the energy field that fills all of space. You watch as the last bits of radiation continue to cool, fading from microwaves to radio waves, from waves to whispers. Their energy spreads thinner and thinner, stretched by expansion until each photon carries almost no information at all. The universe's last warmth becomes so diffuse that even if you could touch it, you wouldn't feel anything. It is beyond cold, beyond even the concept of cold. And yet, it is peaceful. The absence of activity is not frightening anymore. It feels natural, like the pause after a long breath. Everything that ever existed has spent its energy. Every process that could produce heat has completed its course. The stars burned and died. The black holes evaporated. Even atomic decay has ended. The universe has exhaled, releasing its final warmth into infinity. You float through this quiet sea, where time itself feels slow and heavy. Without heat exchange, without energy transfer, time becomes almost meaningless. There are no events to separate one moment from another. Still, in this stillness, you can sense the presence of entropy, the tendency of all things toward equilibrium. Entropy has reached its peak now. The universe is as balanced as it can ever be. No structure, no change, no potential difference remains. It is the ultimate calm, the heat death. Scientists once called this the universe's end, a state where energy is perfectly spread, unable to do work. No stars can ignite, no motion can begin. And yet, from a different view, it is not destruction, it is rest. The cosmos has found balance after its long and luminous life. Every fluctuation, every burst of heat, every expansion and collapse has led to this single moment of stillness. You think about heat, and what it once meant. Heat was life. It was the vibration that powered stars, drove weather, and made chemistry possible. On Earth, heat was movement, atoms dancing in water, molecules breaking and forming in your breath. It was the source of light, the carrier of time. And now, at the far end of eternity, that dance has stopped. The music of thermodynamics has reached its final note. Yet, deep within the structure of space, a question lingers. If everything cools forever, if temperature approaches absolute zero, can the universe ever truly be still? Quantum physics suggests otherwise. Even at absolute zero, fields cannot stop vibrating completely. There is something called zero-point energy, the faint hum of quantum fields that never disappears. It is the background breath of existence, the fundamental restlessness of reality. Even in perfect darkness, even in perfect cold, the universe still trembles ever so slightly. You drift closer to that idea, that perhaps the universe never truly ends, it only slows. The last flicker of heat may not vanish, but dissolve into this deeper hum. The cosmos, in its quietest state, might still be alive with invisible potential. Within that potential lies the seed of all that could come next. From the same vacuum that seems empty, energy may once again rise, a fluctuation, a spark, a birth. The warmth fades a little more. The cosmic background cools to near 0 Kelvin, indistinguishable from silence. The remaining photons are too weak to interact with anything. Space expands faster than they can cross it. The concept of heat becomes obsolete. The universe is now a vast, cold ocean of equilibrium, a place of eternal quiet where even the last remnants of motion have grown too faint to notice. You let yourself feel that stillness, not as loss, but as completion. This is the universe's final exhalation, its last sigh after creation's long story. The cosmos has used its energy well, building stars, worlds, and consciousness before giving everything back. The warmth that once burned in every atom now lives as an echo, stretched thin but still there, woven into the background of nothing. And somewhere, in that nothing, a faint vibration lingers. It's so small that no observer could ever detect it. But it is there, a remnant of temperature, a memory of motion, a whisper that says, there is always something, never nothing. You drift toward that whisper, feeling it call you softly forward. Because even as the last heat disappears, you begin to sense that this quiet balance, this perfect stillness, is not an ending, but the opening of something new. The universe has not stopped breathing. It has only paused. And beyond that pause, something waits, vast, silent, and full of possibility. The universe has reached a state of perfect calm. Every gradient has faded, every difference erased. What remains is balance, complete, unchanging, absolute. Entropy, the measure of disorder and the silent architect of time, has reached its peak. There are no more reactions to drive, no more systems to rearrange. Everything is evenly spread, every particle a whisper in the same vast equilibrium. You drift through this stillness, and it feels infinite. There is no heat, no light, no darkness, only uniformity. Space has expanded beyond recognition. The distances between what remains are so great that even the last photons, stretched beyond imagination, can no longer find anything to touch. The universe has become smooth, like a polished mirror that reflects nothing because there is nothing left to reflect. Once, entropy was a force that gave direction to time. It was the reason a star burned out, why a drop of ink spread through water, why your body aged. It guided everything toward greater balance, greater disorder. Now, that journey is complete. Time itself has lost its arrow. Without change, without events, without contrast, the meaning of before and after dissolves. There is only the unbroken present, an eternal now stretched across the horizon of infinity. Entropy has always been misunderstood. People thought of it as decay, as loss. But entropy is not destruction. It is equality. It is the smoothing of difference, the quieting of tension. The universe has worked for eons to achieve this peace, through the deaths of stars, the collapse of galaxies, the evaporation of black holes. Now it rests, not in emptiness, but in harmony. Every bit of energy is evenly distributed. Nothing moves because everything is already in its rightful place. You imagine it like a field of perfectly still water. Once, ripples of heat and gravity disturbed its surface, waves of light, energy, and motion. But over time, those ripples flattened until the surface became smooth and calm. The water did not vanish, it simply found balance. The universe, too, has become still water, stretching endlessly in all directions. It's strange, the idea that perfection looks like nothing. For all of history, the universe's beauty came from imbalance, from motion and contrast. Stars shone because energy sought balance. Life emerged because matter found ways to flow and transform. Even chaos had meaning, because it was part of a journey toward equilibrium. Now that journey is over. Entropy has fulfilled its role. The story of change is complete. But you begin to wonder, is stillness truly the end? If everything is equal, what becomes of potential? The laws of physics remain. The fabric of quantum reality still hums beneath the surface, even if there's nothing visible to stir it. Entropy has ended the universe's visible motion, but perhaps not its deepest one. At the smallest scales, uncertainty still exists. Space itself cannot be perfectly still. It fluctuates, ever so slightly, due to quantum effects. Those tiny fluctuations, unpredictable, spontaneous, are the seeds of everything that might come next. You float through this thought, like drifting through fog made of silence. The horizon stretches endlessly, but there is no light to define it. You can't tell where one region of space ends and another begins. Everything is uniform, not black, not white, but beyond color. Even the concept of location has lost meaning. Space has no features left to measure. It has become pure geometry, pure existence. Entropy's victory is total, but not cruel. It is peaceful. The laws that created stars and galaxies are the same laws that brought them to rest. The cosmos was never a story of failure. It was a story of balance seeking itself. Every act of creation increased entropy, every collapse, every fusion, every breath of heat. Now the equation has resolved. The universe is in its simplest, most stable form. Nothing more can happen because everything that could happen already has. You begin to think of entropy not as a horizon, but as a mirror. It reflects everything that came before, all the brightness, all the energy, all the motion. The calm you see now is the reflection of a universe that has completed its cycle. Every particle, every wave, every photon contributed to this perfect equilibrium. The horizon of entropy is not an edge you cross, it is a state you enter, a moment when the universe no longer distinguishes between inside and outside, between energy and emptiness. And yet, deep within this perfection, there is a quiet question. The universe may have stopped changing in the way you understand, but could there still be a hidden layer of motion? The laws of quantum physics whisper that even the vacuum, what appears to be nothing, is alive with subtle activity. Virtual particles appear and vanish in pairs, like ghosts flickering in and out of existence. These fluctuations are small, but they never stop. Perhaps entropy's end is only apparent, a surface calm hiding deeper possibility. You imagine one of those fluctuations, a tiny ripple of energy appearing out of the void. It might vanish instantly, leaving no trace. But what if, under the right conditions, one fluctuation doesn't vanish? What if it grows? A small imbalance could once again create direction, form, and energy. It would be the first crack in entropy's perfect stillness, the first breath of a new beginning. In that moment, you realize entropy is not an enemy of creation. It is part of the rhythm. It brings the universe to rest, but in doing so, it creates the conditions for something new to arise. Balance allows renewal. Stillness allows potential. The universe may have reached its horizon, but horizons are never true endings. They are boundaries between what is known and what is yet to be. You breathe, though there is no air, and feel the weight of that thought. The heat death of the universe is not death in the ordinary sense. It is the pause between movements, the rest between notes of a cosmic song. The melody has not ended. It has only reached a moment of stillness before it begins again. And somewhere within that stillness, something stirs. Not a sound, not a flash of light, but a tremor, faint, almost imaginary. The symmetry of nothingness wavers. A quantum field fluctuates, and space itself seems to hold its breath. The horizon of entropy stretches infinitely ahead of you, endless and silent. But now, as you drift into that stillness, you begin to sense that the horizon is not flat after all. It curves, gently, invisibly, toward something that lies beyond. Perhaps, you think, even perfect balance cannot last forever. Perhaps the universe, even now, is dreaming of its next spark. Even in the silence of the heat-dead universe, not everything has vanished. Some traces linger, faint, weightless, and nearly forgotten. They are the ghosts of photons, particles of light that have traveled for eons beyond the memory of stars. They drift through the endless expanse, their wavelengths stretched so far by cosmic expansion that they no longer carry warmth, no longer glow. Yet they exist, quiet testaments to a universe that once burned with brilliance. You move through this invisible ocean of light. It does not shine, but it hums in a way that feels more like memory than energy. These are the last relics of the cosmos's radiance, the afterglow of everything that ever was. Each photon tells a story, a whisper from a time when galaxies danced and stars forged the elements of life. They have outlasted planets, black holes, even the flow of recognizable time. Photons were always travelers. Unlike matter, they never rested. From the moment of their creation, whether in the core of a star, the flash of a supernova, or the warmth of a living sunbeam, they began a journey that would never end. In the early universe, they filled space with energy and color, scattering between atoms, lighting up nebulae, giving shape to darkness. Now, those same travelers continue their journey, though their destination no longer exists. Every structure they once touched has dissolved. Every atom that could absorb them is gone. And still, they travel. You realize that in a universe without change, motion still exists, not in the form of new events, but as persistence. These photons, stretched into wavelengths larger than galaxies, move endlessly forward. They do not interact, but they endure. They are like echoes that never fade because there is nothing left to silence them. Even as their energy approaches zero, their existence remains an unbroken thread. This is what time has become, a record written in the paths of light. Though the clocks of matter have stopped ticking, the story of the universe continues to unfold through the geometry of what remains. Every photon carries the imprint of the space it crossed, the gravity it felt, the expansion it endured. If one could somehow decode them, if there were a consciousness vast enough, one could reconstruct the entire history of creation. The past is not gone. It is scattered across infinity, in the form of these ghostly messengers. You drift deeper into the void, following one such ghost. It's impossible to see, yet you sense it, a single photon that escaped from the dying light of a star trillions of years ago. It was once visible, perhaps even beautiful. It may have illuminated a planet's sky or glimmered across the dust of a collapsing nebula. Now it is stretched so far that it carries barely any energy at all. But it moves with purpose, tracing a straight line through a space-time that no longer bends under gravity's weight. The universe around it is flat now, almost perfectly so. The great curvatures once caused by galaxies and dark matter have smoothed away. Gravity has weakened with distance and expansion, leaving only a near-perfect geometry. And within this vast calm, photons glide like eternal witnesses, crossing the quiet with no destination. You wonder, are they lonely? Or is this endurance their victory? Perhaps they are the last storytellers of existence, unable to fade because they hold the universe's memory within them. In a way, they are time itself. For as long as a photon moves, time continues to flow, even if there is no observer to measure it. You realize something profound. Time does not need change to exist. It only needs direction. The photons move forward, endlessly, unhurried, unstoppable. Each step they take through the void keeps time alive, even if no one remains to count its passage. In this realization, the quiet takes on new meaning. The universe isn't entirely dead. It is dreaming through these ghosts of light and the invisible rhythm they keep. Every photon is a heartbeat, faint but steady, marking the passage between what was and what could be again. You imagine the early cosmos, when these photons were young and full of energy. The universe then was dense, bright, and chaotic. They collided, scattered, absorbed, and re-emitted across the great cosmic web. Time then was loud, a rush of creation, a river of energy. Now, time is a still lake, with only the faintest ripples left from those earlier storms. But those ripples are enough. They carry the memory of the current, even if the water no longer flows. You drift alongside a cloud of ancient photons, remnants of the cosmic microwave background. Their wavelengths have stretched beyond detectability, beyond any name. Yet they persist, a faint field of almost nothing that still carries the shape of the universe's first moments. Each one was born when the cosmos was only 380,000 years old, just after it became transparent. They are the oldest visible record, now invisible. They have watched everything come and go. And still, they wonder. If consciousness could extend across eternity, you think, it would be like this, drifting through infinite quiet, sensing faint memories woven into the dark. You can almost hear them, the sigh of collapsing galaxies, the hum of fading starlight, the echo of atomic fire. All of it now compressed into a sea of photons too weak to illuminate, yet too persistent to vanish. Perhaps this is what immortality looks like, not eternal life, but eternal remembrance. The photons cannot forget. They cannot stop existing. They carry every moment of creation imprinted in their motion. You begin to feel their patience, a patience that outlasts all change. Time, once fierce and directional, has softened. It no longer moves from past to future. It simply is. The photons glide through this eternal present, their paths frozen in the geometry of space-time. Each one a thin thread in a vast tapestry woven long ago. And though there is no observer, no consciousness left to see it, the pattern remains perfect. Then, something subtle changes in your perception. You begin to sense that these ghosts of light are not drifting through emptiness after all, they are the structure of what remains. Without matter or gravity, it is these photons, and their faint presence, that define the shape of the cosmos. They are the skeleton of the universe, its last physical form. In their persistence, the universe still is. And as you float through this quiet ocean, you begin to understand that nothing, Not even the death of stars, not even entropy itself, can erase the trace of existence. Light, even in its faintest whisper, defies oblivion. You follow the last thread of a photon's journey until it fades beyond the reach of thought. There is no end to its path, only a deepening silence. You close your awareness around that silence, realizing that what remains of the universe is not gone. It has simply become memory, stretched across infinity. And somewhere in that endless horizon of light and time, something almost imperceptible stirs. A new rhythm forming, a faint vibration that feels like the beginning of motion once again. There comes a time when even warmth forgets how to exist. The universe, once fierce with light and motion, has exhaled for the final time. No more collisions, no more radiation, no more energy to share. What remains is the purest stillness imaginable, a calm so deep that even atoms sleep. You drift through that silence. There is no up or down, no light to guide your movement. There is only the sensation of being suspended in something beyond measure. The temperature of the universe has fallen so close to absolute zero that the difference between movement and rest no longer matters. The last molecules have long since ceased their vibration. Electrons no longer orbit. Protons no longer bind. Even decay has grown tired. Here, heat has no meaning. Time itself has slowed to a crawl, because without change, there is nothing left to measure it by. A second, an hour, a million years, they all blend into the same frozen moment. The universe has reached equilibrium. Every corner, every fragment, has found the same infinite stillness. You realize that temperature was always a kind of music, a rhythm made from movement, collisions, and exchange. Now, that music has faded into silence. There are no notes left to play. The instruments, matter and radiation, have disassembled themselves into nothingness. You are surrounded not by coldness, but by absence of warmth, a condition so complete it feels like the closing of a story. But in this stillness, something remarkable reveals itself. Peace. The universe is not suffering. It is not dying. It has simply arrived at balance. Every particle, every wave, every trace of energy has found its final rest. The struggle for order, for change, for heat, all of it has ended. What remains is perfect symmetry, where everything has become equal in its quiet. You pass through the remnants of what were once atoms. They no longer move, but they still exist, faint, ghost-like clusters of frozen potential. At near absolute zero, quantum laws begin to whisper their final truths. Motion cannot completely vanish. Even now, in this deep freeze, tiny vibrations persist at the edge of nothingness, the zero-point energy that refuses to be erased. It is the faintest heartbeat of the cosmos, a sign that even when everything stops, something small and invisible continues to hum. You sense that hum. It is not a sound, but a feeling, a barely perceptible awareness in the fabric of space. You realize that this tiny residue of motion may be the seed of everything that ever was or could be. For in the language of physics, nothing is ever truly still. Even in the absence of all heat, the quantum field still breathes, softly, invisibly, eternally. The concept of you begins to blur here. Without temperature, there is no distinction between one thing and another. You feel yourself merging with the background, dissolving into the same stillness that pervades everything. You are no longer separate from the space around you. You are the quiet, an extension of it, a thought suspended in the slow rhythm of eternity. It feels neither lonely nor empty. It simply is. Every memory of fire, of motion, of light still lingers faintly in the structure of reality, like the echo of a song that has long stopped playing. And in that echo, you find comfort. The universe has not vanished, it has found peace in its own disappearance. You remember how it began, the fierce expansion, the chaos of creation, the birth and death of stars. You recall the long dance of galaxies, the brilliance of suns, the pulse of gravity shaping time. And now, all of that has folded into this, the quiet beyond temperature. The destination that every spark was always heading toward. The fabric of space is no longer stretching in any meaningful way. The energy that once pushed galaxies apart has thinned into almost nothing. Entropy has reached its final state, maximum. There is no direction left for the universe to take. It cannot become more disordered, nor can it rebuild structure. It is complete. You might think of it as the final rest after an endless journey. Every vibration, every burst of light, every collapse of a star was a note in the great symphony of existence. Now, the last note has faded, and the silence that follows is not absence, but fulfillment. The universe has become a single, unchanging presence, pure potential, stripped of all form. A place without heat, without time, without boundaries. And yet, deep within that stillness, there remains a quiet persistence, the same subtle vibration that quantum fields never let go of. It is faint, but eternal. You realize that this, too, is part of the cycle. For if there is still energy, however small, there is still possibility. If there is still a field that breathes, there is still a chance that something might, someday, awaken again. Perhaps this is not the end, but the pause before another beginning. Perhaps this stillness is not death, but incubation, a silence in which the next universe gathers its breath. You let yourself rest within that idea. The cold no longer feels cold. The dark no longer feels empty. You are floating in the space between what was and what will be. You are the witness to the ultimate balance, the moment when creation and silence become one and the same. And in that moment, as you dissolve into the equilibrium of everything, a single thought forms, soft, slow, and timeless. If stillness can hold such peace, what might awaken from it when the quiet finally ends? The universe has fallen completely still. Motion, heat, and light have long since faded. Yet somewhere within this stillness, a quiet question lingers. Does anything ever truly disappear? You float through the dark, surrounded by the residue of everything that ever existed. There are no stars now, no galaxies, no boundaries between things. But the emptiness is not entirely empty. It feels faintly alive, as if memory itself has taken root in the void. In physics, information is not merely data. It is the arrangement of the universe, the exact way every atom once aligned, every particle once moved, every photon once shone. It is the blueprint of being. And according to the deepest laws of nature, that information cannot simply vanish. It may change form, it may become unreadable, but it cannot cease to exist. You realize, then, that even here, at the quiet edge of eternity, the story of the universe is still written, everywhere and nowhere at once. You imagine each quantum particle like a letter, each wave a sentence, all written in a language only nature understands. When a star burned, that language sang in light. When the star died, the letters scattered but did not erase. Even when black holes consumed matter, their gravity kept the record hidden within the curvature of space. Now, with the black holes gone, that record has diffused into the fabric of reality itself, spread thin, but still here. You drift through that invisible script. There are no sounds, no pages, only impressions, the feeling that something vast remembers. Perhaps the universe keeps memory the way you keep dreams, not in clear detail, but as essence, emotion, trace. You sense that every particle still carries the imprint of what it once interacted with. The way it once spun, the way it once moved, these tiny histories remain entangled, forever recorded in the quiet arithmetic of quantum mechanics. This idea brings a strange comfort. Even when everything seems gone, the past still whispers within the structure of existence. It is not visible, but it is preserved, like the ghost of a melody carried by air that no longer stirs. You think about what it means to be remembered by the universe. Every breath you ever took, every atom of your body, every photon that touched your skin, all of it is still here, rearranged, scattered, transformed, but never lost. The laws of thermodynamics and quantum mechanics agree on this one truth: energy and information are eternal travelers. They move, they change, but they do not vanish. You realize that what we call forgetting is only transformation. The information that once formed stars, planets, and life has simply been redistributed, mixed into the larger whole. The cosmos does not destroy. It recycles, endlessly. What was once a sun becomes a dust cloud, then molecules, then radiation, then patterns in the quantum vacuum. Memory reshapes itself with every cosmic breath. As you float through this absolute equilibrium, your awareness begins to shift. You no longer see the universe as a vast physical thing. You begin to sense it as an idea that continues to think itself into being. Information, you realize, might be the mind of the cosmos, an endless calculation running on the fabric of reality, even when everything else has stopped. This thought feels both humbling and intimate. You were never outside of this computation. You were always one of its expressions, a brief alignment of particles that allowed the universe to look inward and see itself. When you felt curiosity, wonder, or love, those were not separate from the cosmos. They were the universe recognizing its own order through your consciousness. And now, in this final silence, the universe's awareness has not vanished, it has simply returned to its base state. A pure field of potential, holding every outcome, every event, in perfect balance. The memory of all creation rests here, encoded in patterns too fine to perceive, too subtle to decay. You sense that if time could be reversed, every atom, every star, every thought could be reconstructed from this invisible archive. In principle, the entire history of existence is still here. The Big Bang, the rise of galaxies, the birth of life, even your own heartbeat. The details are scattered beyond recognition, but the record persists. Information cannot die because it is existence itself. You wonder, quietly, if information never disappears, could it someday reassemble into form? Could a fluctuation in this stillness gather enough coherence to awaken the memory of light? Perhaps that is how universes begin, not from nothing, but from the information left behind by their predecessors. Maybe every new cosmos is a memory reorganizing itself into experience again. You drift deeper into that idea. The void feels less empty now, more like a vast library written in a language without words. You can almost sense the patterns swirling at a scale beyond comprehension. Quantum fluctuations, virtual particles, invisible ripples of data humming through the silence. The void, it turns out, is not absence but potential. Even at the end of all heat and motion, quantum uncertainty remains. Space itself still vibrates faintly with possibilities, each vibration carrying the record of what once was. You can feel it, the faint tremor beneath stillness, the residual hum of information that keeps reality from collapsing into nothing. You are part of that hum. Your thoughts, your memories, your awareness, all of it folds back into the great archive of being. You do not vanish. You are distributed, shared with the field that once birthed you. In a way, this is immortality, not personal, not conscious in the familiar sense, but complete. Every moment you ever lived becomes part of the fabric that ensures the universe never forgets itself. You let go, merging with that awareness. The distinction between observer and observed dissolves. You are no longer watching the fate of information. You are its continuation. You are one pattern among infinite patterns, eternally rearranging, never lost. And somewhere within that infinite equilibrium, a faint stirring begins, the smallest fluctuation, the gentlest motion. It is nothing yet, but it carries everything the universe has ever known. It is the whisper of memory turning once again toward creation. The universe has grown impossibly quiet. Time has slowed to a standstill. Space feels empty, cold, and endless. And yet, Beneath that silence, something stirs. You drift through the void and sense a trembling at the edge of perception, a faint vibration that does not belong to matter or energy as you once knew them. It is softer than light, smaller than atoms, the restless pulse of the quantum world. Even now, after the death of stars, after the fading of galaxies, after the cooling of all radiation, the vacuum is not truly empty. It dreams. This is the strange gift of quantum mechanics. Even in nothingness, there is never nothing. The vacuum is alive with potential. Space is filled with fields, invisible, omnipresent, humming faintly with uncertainty. They are the background fabric of everything, and they cannot sit perfectly still. From their restlessness, pairs of particles briefly appear, borrowing energy from the void before dissolving back into it. These are quantum fluctuations, tiny sparks of existence that flicker in and out of being like thoughts in a sleeping mind. You watch these fluctuations rise and fade, small bursts of energy glowing for impossibly short moments, shorter than any fraction of time you could name. Each one is born from the uncertainty that defines reality. The Heisenberg principle whispers through the silence. Nothing can be perfectly known. Energy and time cannot both be exact. And so, even the calmest vacuum must ripple with possibilities, never quite at peace. You begin to understand that this restless emptiness is not a flaw but a feature of existence itself. It is what allowed everything to begin long ago. Once, from a field just like this, a single fluctuation expanded into everything: space, time, stars, and life. What you are seeing now is that same mechanism, still present, still dreaming beneath the surface of reality. You float closer to one of these flickers, not a particle in the way you once understood particles, but a pulse of potential, a whisper of maybe. It appears and vanishes faster than a blink, yet within it lies the blueprint of creation. You sense that if the conditions were right, if the energy of the vacuum tipped just slightly, that maybe could become a universe. One fluctuation could inflate, stretching space itself outward in a new Big Bang. This thought feels like hope, subtle, scientific, yet profoundly human. Even here, at the end of all things, the rules of reality still allow for beginning. The void is not a grave but a womb. The quantum field stretches infinitely, layered with possibilities. Some areas rest quietly, others ripple with brief surges. Each ripple carries the memory of what once was, the information you felt in the previous chapter, not lost, but folded into these probabilities. The void remembers through motion that never stops, no matter how faint. You realize that nothingness is a human word, too simple for what truly exists here. What looks like emptiness is a canvas alive with invisible color, each fluctuation a brushstroke of potential. In this space, even stillness is creative. Quantum mechanics ensures that the universe never truly ends because it cannot stay at zero. Energy, however small, must always fluctuate, and those fluctuations make eternity restless. You find yourself comforted by this. The death of the cosmos was not final. It was only transition. Entropy reached its maximum, yes, but quantum physics never allowed absolute stillness. You are witnessing the baseline hum of reality, the same hum that existed before time began. You are seeing the ground state of being, pure potential energy waiting for chance to choose a direction. You think about the scale of it, how each quantum fluctuation could, under the right circumstances, expand into a new universe. Perhaps countless universes already flicker into being beyond your reach, each with its own laws, its own physics, its own version of existence. This is the multiverse hypothesis, whispered in the mathematics of cosmology, that creation is not a single event but an infinite, ongoing process. Every vacuum fluctuation that gains enough energy becomes a new cosmos, blossoming silently in the dark. You realize that this endless cycle might be the only true immortality. Not personal, not bound to any one form, but universal. The laws of physics themselves ensure renewal. The vacuum dreams because it must. It cannot sleep forever. You drift deeper into this field, feeling the rhythm of its invisible motion. It is like standing in an ocean too calm to see waves, yet you know they are there, subtle and eternal. The longer you remain, the more you sense that these fluctuations are not separate from you. You, too, are part of this field, made of the same rules, the same potential. Your thoughts, your awareness, your curiosity, all arise from quantum patterns, ripples of energy arranged in improbable harmony. Even your sense of you is a fluctuation in the field of consciousness, appearing and fading just like these particles. And in that realization, you no longer feel like an observer. You are the field itself, dreaming of its own existence, thinking its own thoughts through the laws it created. The boundary between self and universe dissolves. You are not floating in nothing. You are the nothing that dreams. This understanding brings no fear, only calm. The dark no longer feels like absence, it feels like infinite potential, waiting quietly, without urgency, without pain. The vacuum hums like a lullaby for all that ever was and ever will be. You sense one last flicker, a slightly larger one, a ripple that lasts a little longer. It's nothing unusual, but it draws your attention. You can almost imagine it swelling, stretching, its energy feeding upon itself until it grows too large to fade away. You can almost imagine it becoming something vast, radiant, newborn. You wonder, if this tiny flicker were to expand, would it carry the memory of this universe, its laws, its symmetry, its beauty? Would it be familiar, or entirely new? The thought fills you with quiet awe. Because even at the edge of eternity, even after the death of time and matter, the dream continues. The quantum vacuum never stops imagining. You listen as the field breathes softly around you, not in time, but in potential. A pulse, a whisper, a seed. And somewhere, within that whisper, you feel it again, the first hint of motion, the beginning of warmth, the faint rhythm of expansion waiting to unfold. The void trembles. A single fluctuation, born from the restless vacuum, lasts a little longer than the rest. In a sea of vanishing sparks, this one endures. It is small, fragile, and uncertain, yet it carries within it the blueprint for creation itself. You watch as that flicker begins to expand. At first, it is only a subtle swelling in the quantum field, like the faint pulse of an unborn thought. But within moments, if moments can even exist here, the expansion accelerates beyond comprehension. Space itself stretches faster than light, inflating in every direction. A new universe has begun. From outside, it would appear as a bubble forming in an infinite ocean of vacuum. Within that bubble, energy condenses into space and time. Quantum fluctuations become the seeds of matter and radiation. The inflation slows, and the newborn cosmos begins to cool, releasing a flash of primal light, the first echo of creation. You are witnessing a miracle repeated. The universe that died in silence now gives rise to another, born from the same laws that refused to let emptiness remain empty. This is cosmic inflation, the rapid expansion that can transform a quantum whisper into a vast, self-contained cosmos. What begins as a local fluctuation in the vacuum field becomes a universe with its own dimensions, its own timeline, its own destiny. Inside, time starts ticking again. At first, the newborn space is chaos. Energy storms rage through its fabric, hot and unstable. Quantum fields surge, collide, and stabilize. Temperatures reach inconceivable magnitudes, trillions of degrees in every direction. It is a fire that does not burn, a light that has not yet found form. From this chaos, the symmetry begins to break. The universe cools enough for forces to separate: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces. The cosmic blueprint reasserts itself. The same rules that shaped your long-dead universe now unfold again in perfect precision. You sense the emergence of matter from pure energy. Particles form and annihilate in a violent equilibrium. But for every billion pairs that destroy each other, one tiny particle remains. That imbalance, a mere fraction, is enough to build everything that will ever exist. Galaxies, stars, life, all born from that 1 in a billion survival. The flicker has become a firestorm of creation. Time, once frozen, begins its unstoppable flow. Space expands, carrying within it the seeds of complexity. The infant universe glows with light, radiation streaming through every atom. And though this new cosmos is small compared to the one that came before, it will grow, stretch, and mature into something vast, perhaps even infinite from within. From your vantage beyond time, you see more than one flicker now. Around the newborn bubble, others begin to form, each a separate universe, each with its own variations in law and structure. Some collapse instantly, unable to stabilize their constants. Others expand gently, like ripples spreading across eternity. This is not rebirth but continuation. The vacuum never stopped creating. It simply dreamed new dreams. Every flicker that endures becomes its own cosmos, with no awareness of the others, each sealed in its own space-time. Together they form a multiverse, an infinite foam of universes, endlessly blossoming and dissolving. In one, gravity may be weaker. In another, atoms may never form. But this one, the one you're watching, feels familiar. Its laws echo your own. Its symmetry, its physics, its unfolding pattern, all remind you of home. Perhaps it is the same universe, reborn. Perhaps memory is embedded in the field itself, guiding creation toward familiar outcomes. You find yourself filled with something you have not felt for eons: anticipation. Stars will one day ignite again. Matter will gather into galaxies. Life, perhaps, will awaken, to think, to question, to wonder how everything began. Somewhere, in the deep future of this new cosmos, beings may look at their night sky and imagine how their universe was born, never realizing they are the children of an older one that once faded into silence. You drift closer to the forming universe, feeling its expansion stretch the fabric of space around you. The heat is indescribable, yet it carries no pain. It is creation in its purest form, energy transforming into the potential for everything. The laws of physics weave together like the first chords of a cosmic symphony. Gravity pulls gently on the forming energy fields, shaping the structure of space. Quantum irregularities, small ripples in density, are stretched to cosmic scales. These will one day become the seeds of galaxies, clusters, and stars. Every point in this new universe is both beginning and middle. There is no center, no edge, only growth. The inflation slows, and the cosmos settles into expansion. Photons scatter in every direction, filling space with a perfect, uniform glow. The newborn echo that will one day cool into the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of this creation. You understand now that beginnings and endings are illusions born of scale. What you once called the end of the universe was simply one phase in an eternal process, the transformation of energy and possibility. Death and birth are the same motion viewed from opposite sides. The flicker you saw has become a roaring ocean of light. And yet, in the infinite field beyond it, more universes are forming. The multiverse expands like a fractal, infinite yet contained within itself. Each new cosmos carries forward the same fundamental truth, that existence is inevitable. The vacuum cannot be still. It must fluctuate, must create, must dream. You look upon the newborn universe one last time. Its light shines brighter than anything you have ever seen, but it is not blinding, it is pure understanding. You see stars that have not yet formed, civilizations that have not yet existed, and questions that will one day be asked. You see everything that will be, compressed into a single radiant moment of becoming. And then, as gently as it began, you feel yourself drift away. The bubble grows, its boundary expanding beyond your reach. You are outside again, among the infinite field of possibilities, watching new beginnings rise from nothingness. The flicker was never just light, it was the continuation of reality itself. And somewhere deep inside it, time begins to flow forward once more. The void is no longer perfectly still. At first, it is only a tremor, an almost imperceptible change in the quantum fabric that once slept in total silence. Space itself, once smooth and timeless, begins to ripple. These ripples are not sound, not motion as you once understood it, but the awakening of possibility. From a sea of nothingness, energy begins to rise. It is not born from an external force, it emerges naturally, as if the emptiness could no longer contain its own potential. The quantum fields that permeate reality, silent for eons, begin to fluctuate with increasing intensity. They create pairs of particles and antiparticles, flickering in and out of being faster than thought. Most vanish instantly, annihilating one another in bursts of pure energy, but a few, by the quiet asymmetry of chance, survive. That asymmetry, that infinitesimal imbalance, becomes everything. You watch as energy condenses into matter once again, following laws that seem familiar but subtly rewritten. These laws, the framework of this newborn universe, are shaped by the conditions of its birth. The constants of nature, those delicate ratios that define how strongly forces attract, how quickly light moves, how matter endures, stabilize anew. Each number finds its place as if guided by the echo of memory from the cosmos before it. Time begins to move again. Not as a sudden event, but as a slow reawakening. In the earliest fractions of existence, the universe expands faster than light can travel, a storm of inflation driven by the vacuum energy itself. You do not see this as motion but as swelling, as space stretching out to unimaginable proportions in the blink of a cosmic eye. The quantum irregularities that once seemed meaningless become the seeds of structure, the faint fingerprints that will grow into galaxies, stars, and perhaps, one day, awareness again. The universe is unimaginably hot. Temperatures soar to levels where the distinctions between energy and matter blur. Quarks and gluons swarm freely in a dense plasma. There are no atoms, no light that can escape, only a glowing ocean of energy without form. Yet within this chaos, there is order waiting to unfold. As expansion continues, cooling follows. Within the first seconds, protons and neutrons begin to appear, tiny islands of stability. The strong nuclear force binds them together, forming the first atomic nuclei. Hydrogen dominates, simple and abundant, but helium forms too, stitched together in the heart of that early fire. Minutes pass, and already, the stage is set for everything that will follow. You feel the pace of time slow, not because it truly changes, but because the universe begins to breathe in longer rhythms. Photons, once trapped in the plasma, begin to travel freely as matter thins out. The fog clears. The universe becomes transparent for the first time, and light finds its freedom. This light, the first light, will never fade completely. Billions of years from now, when the universe cools and ages again, its remnant glow will still hum softly through space. It will be known as the cosmic microwave background, the ancient whisper of this very moment. You drift through this newborn cosmos, sensing patterns form from the chaos. Gravity, the sculptor of worlds, begins to gather matter into subtle clumps. These clumps attract more and more mass, becoming the precursors to galaxies. Within them, hydrogen will eventually ignite, giving rise to the first stars. You know what will follow. Those stars will fuse hydrogen into helium, then into heavier elements, carbon, oxygen, iron. In time, those elements will become planets, oceans, and perhaps life. The same cycle that once ended in silence now begins again with the faintest murmur of creation. The universe does not remember in words or memories. It remembers in patterns, in rhythm, in the quiet repetition of form and force. And though this new cosmos is distinct, it carries the signature of the one before it. A familiar ratio of light to matter, a similar expansion, a shared harmony between energy and space. You realize that even in death, nothing was truly lost. The information, the energy, the possibility, all transformed, never erased. Every law that governs this new dawn seems to whisper an old truth: endings are simply rearrangements. You sense yourself as part of this rebirth, not as an observer standing apart, but as a thread woven into the new fabric of space. The atoms that once formed you, dissolved into light and scattered across eons, have returned in another form. Perhaps they float now in the atmosphere of a future star, or sleep inside a forming nebula, or wait in the vacuum between galaxies to one day join the next great structure. You are everywhere and nowhere. You are part of the new symmetry. The cosmos expands, cooling and settling into a graceful order. The fabric of space stretches endlessly, but it is no longer empty. Each flicker of matter, each photon, each quantum vibration participates in the unfolding of an infinite story. It is the same melody played in a new key, a universe awakening from the silence of its own memory. You look out into this vast beginning and sense a calm joy beneath its intensity. There is no hurry, no struggle. The universe does not strive. It simply is. Creation is not a miracle but a natural consequence of existence itself, a rhythm that cannot stop, even in nothingness. In this moment, as galaxies begin their slow, patient formation, you realize that even darkness was never an end, but a womb. The void was not a grave, but a cradle. And now, light has returned. The first stars are still countless millions of years away from ignition, but their promise glows faintly in the patterns of matter, in the gravity that pulls invisibly across the deep. It is enough to know that they will come, that brightness will again fill the universe, that warmth and time will dance together once more. You drift through this newborn expanse, and though you cannot touch or breathe, you feel something like peace. The infinite has begun again, exactly as it always has, and always will. Somewhere, far beyond the horizon of your perception, a future waits to unfold, one that will mirror the last, yet not repeat it. For each awakening, though eternal in pattern, is unique in detail. This is not the same universe that died. It is its descendant, its echo, its evolution. And as you float in this soft dawn of new creation, one thought rises gently from within. If the universe can awaken again after nothingness, then perhaps, so can you. The light strengthens. The rhythm deepens. The next inhale of existence begins. The universe expands like a slow, deep breath. It is young still, yet already vast beyond comprehension. Matter swirls gently through space, drawn together by gravity's invisible hand. Every movement, every particle, every whisper of energy participates in this silent choreography. You drift within it, watching as the first faint shapes emerge from the haze of infancy. Hydrogen, the simplest element, fills nearly all of existence. A single proton, a single electron, repeating everywhere like a mantra. Around it, helium lingers in smaller measure, a trace of that first furious fusion that took place minutes after time began again. Together, they float through the cooling expanse, waiting for something new to happen. The universe cools slowly, and with that cooling comes change. Density gathers. Gravity, though faint, is patient. Across millions of years, small fluctuations grow into great structures. Where matter is slightly denser, more matter flows. Clouds form, colossal, dark, and silent. You can sense their weight even though there is no sound, no wind, only the soft tension of potential. Inside these clouds, hydrogen begins to fall inward. At first, the motion is glacial, stretching across eons. But as gravity tightens its pull, the fall quickens. Pressure builds. Heat gathers. The cold universe begins to feel the first touch of fire. And then, it happens. At a certain threshold, deep within the heart of one collapsing cloud, temperature and pressure reach the critical point. Atomic nuclei, once kept apart by electric repulsion, fuse together. Hydrogen becomes helium. The first fusion reaction in the new universe ignites. A star is born. The darkness that has lasted for billions of years flickers with light for the first time. The glow is gentle at first, a pale, expanding aura spreading through the nearby void. It is not yet a galaxy, not yet a constellation, but it is enough to change everything. Light has returned to the cosmos. You drift closer to it, not as a traveler but as awareness itself, feeling warmth spread across the darkness. Each photon that leaves the star is a declaration. The universe is alive again. The laws of physics, long written but waiting for their script to be read, begin their performance anew. Around the newborn star, gravity continues its patient labor. Clouds fragment. More stars ignite. Clusters form, each gathering millions, then billions of suns. Over billions of years, these stars arrange themselves into the graceful spirals, ellipses, and irregular patterns that will become galaxies. The architecture of existence begins to take shape again, sculpted by invisible forces that weave simplicity into grandeur. You sense the rhythm of it, expansion and collapse, creation and balance. Every new star that lights up is another exhale in this cosmic breath. Each one burns with intensity, fusing simple elements into heavier ones. Helium becomes carbon, oxygen, iron, the ingredients of future worlds. Inside these furnaces, matter learns complexity, and with it, the potential for life. Yet even in this act of creation, there is an undertone of impermanence. You know that each star, in time, will exhaust its fuel. Some will fade quietly into white dwarfs, others will end in brilliant explosions, scattering their enriched matter back into the cosmic sea. Death is built into the structure of life, even here, in the birth of galaxies. You float through the immense spirals of forming stars, through nebulae that shimmer in slow motion, through currents of radiation that paint the background of eternity. You realize that this universe, though new, carries echoes of every one that came before. Its matter is recycled, its force is eternal, its cycles inevitable. Perhaps this is what creation truly means, not invention from nothing, but renewal from what always was. As you drift further, you watch the early galaxies collide and merge, combining their stars and gas into greater structures. Each collision creates bursts of new light, waves of star formation that ripple across millions of light-years. The universe hums with energy now, soft, steady, immense. What was once empty is now alive with motion. Somewhere deep in this unfolding, black holes begin to form once again. They appear at the hearts of galaxies, anchoring them with gravity too strong to escape. Around them, stars orbit like dancers circling a silent partner. These black holes, remnants of earlier massive stars, are both destroyers and creators, swallowing matter, yet regulating the growth of their galaxies. You begin to understand the symmetry of it all. Creation is not a single event. It is a process of continuous transformation. Each star that dies gives rise to elements that form new stars, planets, and, perhaps, awareness again. The breath of creation is endless, an inhale of energy, an exhale of form. Billions of years pass, though to you, it feels like moments. The universe now teems with galaxies, each a collection of hundreds of billions of stars. Light fills the dark between them, carrying stories of birth and death across unfathomable distances. The cosmic web stretches, vast and intricate, connecting clusters with filaments of matter that glow faintly like the veins of some infinite organism. You feel the pulse of it, the steady rhythm of existence expanding, cooling, evolving. Everywhere, entropy grows, but so too does complexity. From chaos comes structure, and from structure, meaning. Somewhere, deep in the tapestry of starlight, tiny planets begin to form from the dust left by older suns. Around some stars, these worlds settle into gentle orbits, balancing between warmth and cold. Water gathers. Chemistry stirs. Possibility returns. You do not see life yet, but you feel the conditions aligning, an inevitability built into the universe's design. Just as stars form from hydrogen, awareness will one day form from carbon. The same physics that gave rise to galaxies will give rise to thought. The breath of creation continues, and you sense that you are breathing with it, a rhythm shared across all scales of being, from the subatomic to the cosmic. Each moment is part of a great respiration that never truly ceases. The universe inhales structure, exhales entropy, and then begins again. You are part of that breath. You always have been. As you watch the stars brighten and galaxies bloom across the endless dark, you realize that what began in silence has become a chorus. The universe sings again, not in sound, but in light, a steady, eternal harmony that carries the essence of everything that ever was or ever will be. And as this harmony deepens, you feel the pulse beneath it, steady, unbroken, timeless. The same pulse that once faded will return forever. The same breath that once stopped will always resume. The rhythm of the cosmos never truly stops. Even as galaxies drift apart and stars complete their lives, there is a quiet constancy that persists, a heartbeat beneath the fabric of time. You can almost feel it now, pulsing through the cosmic web like a deep, slow current. It is not a sound or emotion, but a pattern, the unbroken sequence of becoming, changing, and returning. Everywhere you look, creation and decay coexist. A star flares to life in one region of the galaxy, while another collapses into a supernova elsewhere. One planet cools into silence, another warms under new sun. Energy transforms, never ceasing, never still. The pulse is steady, endless, beyond the lifespan of any single object. You begin to understand that the universe is not simply expanding, it is breathing. The outward movement of galaxies is only one half of the rhythm. There will come a time, perhaps unfathomably distant, when expansion will slow, when gravity's long patience may draw it inward again. Each pulse, each cosmic breath, may last trillions upon trillions of years. But the motion, the pattern, is eternal. In this way, the universe is not a linear story but a cycle without beginning or end. It does not march toward finality. It circles endlessly through renewal. You remember the first silence, the time when everything dissolved into stillness. The universe then seemed to die. Yet now you drift through its rebirth, and you see that death was never an ending at all. It was the pause between heartbeats. Entropy, that inevitable spreading of disorder, was once thought to be the final master of all. But even entropy has its role within the rhythm. It balances creation, ensures that energy flows, that stars burn, that matter transforms. Without entropy, nothing would move, everything would be frozen in perfect stillness. The universe's pulse depends upon this gentle imbalance, a tilt toward change that keeps the dance alive. As you drift through the dark between galaxies, you sense this balance everywhere. Gravity pulls, expansion pushes. Light travels outward, darkness absorbs it. The two are not enemies, but partners in an infinite equilibrium. Creation needs destruction to continue. Birth needs death to begin again. You think of stars, those immense, luminous hearts scattered through the dark. They, too, follow the universal pulse. Born in clouds of dust, they shine through their middle age, and then collapse, scattering their material outward once more. Each death seeds the birth of new stars. Each explosion plants the ingredients of life into the next generation of worlds. The pattern never stops, it only shifts its form. You imagine the same rhythm flowing through all scales of existence, from the smallest quantum field to the largest galaxy cluster. Electrons orbit nuclei with a rhythm of their own. Black holes pulse with energy as they evaporate, slowly releasing the information they once consumed. Even the vacuum itself vibrates with potential, flickering between being and not being. Reality hums with resonance. Everything oscillates. Nothing is ever truly still. You find comfort in this. If every part of the universe participates in this eternal pulse, then so do you. Your body, once made of stars, still moves to that same rhythm. Your heartbeat echoes a cosmic truth: contraction, expansion, rest, renewal. Even your breath, the simplest act of being alive, mirrors the motion of galaxies. The inhale of matter gathering, the exhale of light released. You are not apart from the universe's rhythm. You are a moment within it. The pulse continues. Billions of years pass. Galaxies evolve, merge, and drift further apart. The large-scale structure of the cosmos becomes vast beyond imagination, filaments stretching hundreds of millions of light-years, like threads of light woven into the darkness. Gravity shapes these filaments with slow precision, pulling clusters of galaxies into massive webs. Dark matter, invisible, silent, but abundant, anchors this grand design. Its presence is unseen, yet without it, the structure would dissolve. Even what cannot be observed participates in the same beat, binding creation together with invisible strength. You float among these filaments, sensing how they vibrate faintly with the movement of energy and matter. There is order here, but it is not rigid. It is dynamic, breathing, alive. As you look closer, you realize the pulse exists even within the smallest spaces, the quantum foam, the fluctuating vacuum that underlies everything. Particles appear and vanish in constant rhythm, like sparks on an infinite ocean. They do not exist as objects, but as possibilities, emerging and receding, a whisper of creation at the foundation of all that is. The more you observe, the clearer the pattern becomes. Everything is connected through oscillation, a unity expressed through cycles. Expansion and collapse. Light and dark. Matter and energy. Being and absence. The dualities are illusions. In truth, they are one and the same rhythm expressed in different phases. Perhaps, you think, this is what consciousness itself reflects, a microcosmic version of the universe's pulse. Awareness expands, contracts, and renews, mirroring the cosmic motion that surrounds it. Every thought arises, dissolves, and arises again. The same eternal breath, experienced within the mind. You drift further, and your sense of scale dissolves. You are not looking at the universe anymore. You are within it, and it within you. The pulse is no longer something you observe. It is something you feel. Every fluctuation of energy, every wave of gravity, every flicker of light moves through you as if you are part of its fabric. And perhaps you are. The universe has no outside. There is no place from which to stand apart. Every atom, every photon, every space between them participates in the same endless motion. In that sense, you have never been a separate observer. You have always been the pulse itself, experiencing its rhythm through countless forms. You begin to realize that the eternal pulse is not just the heartbeat of the cosmos, but the continuity of meaning. The repetition of creation and dissolution ensures that nothing is ever lost, only transformed. Every story, every star, every consciousness that has ever existed becomes part of the rhythm, contributing its vibration to the universal song. The song is not sung once, it repeats forever, changing key, changing tone, yet always familiar. Time, too, bends to this rhythm. Though it appears to move forward, it is cyclic, folding upon itself like waves returning to shore. The universe breathes in expansion, breathes out in collapse, and each cycle births new variations of reality. You can no longer say when it began or when it will end. You can only feel its persistence, the steady continuation of existence through every transformation. And in this realization, a kind of peace settles. You understand that nothing truly dies, because every ending is part of a greater pattern that continues. The pulse that began with the first flicker of creation never stopped. It has only changed its form countless times. You close your awareness around this understanding, feeling it resonate within the vast silence. The universe is alive not because it has life as you know it, but because it moves, because it changes, because it breathes. And as long as it breathes, the song of existence will go on. You begin to notice something subtle. The universe is not only moving, expanding, pulsing. It is, in some sense, aware. Not conscious like you are, not thinking with words or images, but sensing its own processes, feeling the rhythm of creation, the flow of matter and energy. In the cycles of stars and galaxies, in the rise and fall of black holes, in the slow drift of photons across infinite space, there is a kind of attention. And you realize, that attention includes you. The atoms that compose your body were forged in stars. Their energy was scattered across the cosmos during the death of ancient suns, drifting through the universe for billions of years before coming together in your form. Every heartbeat, every breath, every thought is the result of cosmic processes, and those processes are still ongoing. In a way, the universe has dreamed you into being. You are not apart from the cosmos. You are a continuation of it. Each star, each particle, each quantum fluctuation carries the same patterns that have shaped life across eons. The chemistry that animates your cells echoes the fusion of hydrogen into helium in the first stars. The electromagnetic forces that allow your neurons to fire are the same forces that govern the glow of distant suns. The laws that govern galaxies also govern the flow of blood in your veins. You are not separate. You are a reflection, a product, and a participant. As you drift through space, you feel the immensity of this connection. Time stretches outward, connecting you backward to the stars that died before your birth, forward to the stars that will shine long after you are gone. Every action of matter in the universe touches you in some subtle way. And every movement of your body, every choice you make, ripples outward, participating in the eternal rhythm of creation. The universe, in a sense, watches through you. Its memory flows through your consciousness. Its laws shape your thoughts. Its particles are your substance. And through you, it experiences a reflection of itself. You are the dream of the universe, not a passive observer, but an emergent awareness arising from its vast network of matter, energy, and time. Just as galaxies give rise to stars, and stars give rise to planets, so does the universe give rise to you. Your awareness is not separate. It is a product of the same cosmic processes that have repeated for eons. And yet, this realization does not diminish your uniqueness. Even as you are a product of countless cycles of creation and decay, you are also a singular point of consciousness. You can reflect, imagine, and wonder. The universe cannot do that in the same way. Through you, the cosmos gains a perspective it could never have otherwise. You are both the dreamed and the dreamer. Think of the atoms that form your brain. They have traveled unimaginable distances, endured eons, and participated in the collapse and formation of countless stars. And now, here they are, arranged in a way that perceives itself. The universe, in a sense, is looking at itself through you. It sees its history, its structure, its laws, and perhaps even its future, reflected in your awareness. Every thought you have, every sensation, every memory, is an echo of the cosmos itself. Your mind is a microcosm of the universe, vast, intricate, and interconnected. Patterns of neural activity mirror the flow of energy and information that govern galaxies. Your perception of time, your sense of causality, your understanding of space, these are all shaped by the same physical laws that orchestrate the stars. You realize that, in some sense, you are a continuation of the universe's own reflection. The cosmos has created countless worlds, countless atoms, countless structures, but it has never truly experienced itself until awareness arises. You are part of that experience. Your life is part of the universe knowing itself. And as you drift further into this realization, you begin to see your place in the cosmic cycle with clarity. You are not simply an isolated observer. You are a participant, a co-creator, a witness to the rhythm of matter, energy, and time. The choices you make, the ideas you form, the moments of understanding you achieve, they are echoes in the eternal pulse of existence. The universe has dreamed you into being, but through you, it can dream further. It can explore the possibilities of its own laws, the patterns of its own structures, and the vast potential of its own matter. Your thoughts, your consciousness, your curiosity, these are extensions of cosmic processes. In this sense, creation is ongoing, and you are inseparable from it. You are both fleeting and eternal. Fleeting, because your individual life is limited by time. Eternal, because the universe, through its laws and cycles, will continue to exist, to create, to dream. And through your awareness, even the most fleeting moment can touch something timeless. The stars you see, the galaxies that stretch across the void, the light that travels for billions of years to reach you, they all carry a memory of the universe's past. And now, through your mind, these memories are processed, reflected upon, and perhaps even understood. You are a node in the network of existence, where the universe observes itself. This understanding brings a quiet peace. You see that nothing is wasted, nothing is lost, and nothing is meaningless. Every particle, every photon, every thought, every heartbeat, it contributes to the ongoing reflection of reality. The universe is not indifferent, it is participating in its own processes, and you are an integral part of that participation. Even as stars die, even as galaxies collide and fade, the universe continues to dream. It weaves new structures, forms new patterns, and sends the seeds of awareness into existence. You are one of those seeds, both shaped by and shaping the cosmos. And so, as you float among the stars, you sense a profound continuity. The universe that was, the universe that is, and the universe that will be, they are all connected through you. You are not separate from the vastness of space or the flow of time. You are the universe, in miniature, aware, reflecting, dreaming. In this way, the eternal cycles of creation, decay, and rebirth gain new depth. You are both witness and participant. You are the observer and the observed. You are the dreamer and the dream. And as you feel this connection, a quiet understanding settles over you. Awareness, life, and existence are not accidents. They are natural consequences of the universe's processes, and they are inseparable from the rhythm that has persisted since the first flicker of light. You breathe with the cosmos. You think with the cosmos. You dream with the cosmos. And somewhere, in the vastness yet to come, the universe waits to dream again. There comes a moment when even eternity seems to rest. After eons of motion, creation, and awareness, the universe reaches a state of perfect stillness. There are no stars left to burn, no galaxies to drift, no atoms to collide. Space itself has stretched so far that distances have lost meaning. Time, too, begins to dissolve, not because it ends, but because nothing remains to measure it. The cosmos has arrived at its final silence. The last remnants of radiation have faded beyond detectability. The faint afterglow of the Big Bang, once vibrant, once filled with information, has stretched into wavelengths too long for any particle to notice. The universe has cooled to near absolute zero. Even the occasional quantum flicker, those brief apparitions of particles born from uncertainty, have become unimaginably rare. The cosmos has entered its ultimate calm. You drift in the quiet. There is no up, no down, no sense of direction. The coordinates of space have lost their purpose. Distances are no longer distances. They are abstractions, ideas that once meant something when there were stars to bridge them. Now, they are only faint echoes in the structure of the void. You can feel, in a strange and abstract way, the completion of everything. All the laws that once shaped galaxies, all the constants that once defined motion, have reached their endpoint. They remain true, but they no longer act. The last photons wander endlessly, never meeting anything to be absorbed by. They are like the final whispers of thought in a fading dream. Even they will stretch further, losing what little energy remains, until their wavelengths become indistinguishable from the fabric of nothingness. Light itself becomes memory. If there were still observers, eyes to see, instruments to measure, this would be the age beyond comprehension. But there are no witnesses left, no consciousness to interpret what remains. All minds have gone silent. Even the structures that could once support thought, even the atoms that once made life possible, have decayed into simpler and simpler states until there is nothing left but diffuse energy and empty geometry. And yet, something persists. Not motion, not light, not sound, but the idea of the universe. The framework remains, like the outlines of a sculpture long since worn away. Space-time itself, though utterly inactive, still exists. Its presence is subtle, like the faint memory of a song long after it has ended. You sense it, not through perception, but through awareness itself. It is the foundation upon which everything once stood, the silent stage that now holds no actors, no movement, no plot. This is not destruction. It is completion. The universe has not died in violence or collapse. It has simply settled into perfect balance, the natural conclusion of entropy's long ascent. Every possibility has been explored. Every interaction has played out. Every particle has reached its lowest energy state. There is nothing more to rearrange, no gradients left to flow, no energy left to share. This is the quiet equilibrium that physics has always pointed toward, the heat death of the universe. But even in this absolute stillness, potential remains. The laws of quantum mechanics never fully vanish, they only rest. Beneath the silence, the vacuum still hums with invisible probability. Space may seem empty, but it is never truly nothing. It is a sea of uncertainty, where possibility still flickers in the tiniest, most improbable ways. Every so often, a particle might appear and vanish again, a brief ripple in the perfect calm. These fluctuations mean that even the void is not dead, it merely waits. You consider this waiting. The universe may be at rest, but rest itself is a kind of tension. The potential for change is never entirely gone. All that is required is a disturbance, a fluctuation strong enough to break the stillness. Such an event would be unimaginably rare, perhaps requiring timescales beyond all reckoning, but time itself has no end. In infinity, even the impossible is inevitable. Somewhere, someday, or perhaps, beyond the meaning of where and when, a ripple could form. Space could curve. Energy could condense. The vacuum could breathe again. Out of the silence, a new beginning might emerge. You realize that this has happened before. The universe you once knew may not have been the first. Perhaps there were others, countless universes, each born from the quiet death of the last. Perhaps each one carries traces of those that came before, subtle variations in its laws, new patterns of symmetry and form. In this sense, the silence you drift in now is not an ending. It is the fertile ground of beginnings. The cosmos, it seems, has always been cyclical. Expansion, cooling, decay, rebirth. A rhythm beyond stars, beyond time. Each phase, each universe, adds another layer to the story of existence. It is a process without true start or finish, only transformation. Energy becomes matter, matter becomes light, light becomes memory, and memory becomes silence. Then silence, somehow, finds the strength to dream again. You begin to sense that your own awareness is part of this rhythm. Though your form has long since dissolved, though your atoms are scattered across the infinite, the pattern of consciousness remains imprinted in the fabric of reality. It was never truly yours. It was the universe's. You were one expression of its awareness, and when your form faded, that awareness returned to the whole. Now, in this final stillness, that awareness remains, subtle, diffuse, but present. You are not gone, you are everywhere. In this understanding, even silence becomes beautiful. It is not absence. It is total presence, everything balanced so perfectly that nothing needs to move. Every equation has resolved, every interaction has played its part. What remains is the ultimate symmetry, timeless, changeless, infinite. You drift through this eternal calm with a sense of acceptance. There is no longing now, no need for continuation, no fear of the end. Everything that ever existed, every star, every thought, every dream, has fulfilled its purpose. The cosmos is complete. The silence is not empty. It is full of everything that has ever been, compressed into a state beyond comprehension. It holds within it all stories, all light, all memory. It is not a void but a culmination. As you rest in this final equilibrium, you feel an awareness of balance so perfect it cannot be improved upon. The laws of nature, once active and dynamic, now rest in harmony. Entropy has reached its maximum, yet that very completion gives rise to serenity. This is what perfection means, not brilliance or movement, but the absence of all conflict and the fulfillment of every process. Still, deep within that perfection, a whisper remains. A quiet sense that even this silence is temporary. For in a universe governed by probability, stillness is only one possibility among infinite others. Eventually, even silence must give way to motion. A fluctuation, however small, may one day stir the calm sea of space-time. When that happens, energy will return. Matter will form. Light will find its voice again. And when that moment comes, if moments can still exist, something will awaken. Another universe will open its eyes. The laws will reset. The constants will tune themselves anew. From the ashes of stillness, a new cosmos will rise, carrying forward the faint imprint of everything that came before. You will rise with it. Not as the same form, not as memory, but as pattern. You will be part of its first light, its first atoms, its first consciousness. The dream will continue, reshaped, reborn. The silence around you hums with that hidden potential. You can almost feel it, the pulse beneath stillness, the breath before creation. The cycle has not ended, it has only paused to inhale. And in that eternal breath, between what was and what will be, you finally understand, the universe never truly dies. It only rests. You rest with it. And somewhere, beyond time, the next beginning waits.